What a fucking joke. Whoa.
Wow, Mr. President.
We have been graced.
Over here.
Oh, no, Joe, over here.
Turn
over
right.
Here. No,
turn right.
Keep going.
Behind you. We're behind you.
Other way. Other
behind
way.
you. Yeah, keep coming. Keep coming.
There we go, Joe. No. Ah, crap. No, Joe. Right there.
Stop.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. All right,
I think
you are muted.
You're muted
Joe.
there, Mr. President. There's a button. Can you push it? Yeah, sniff it.
Sniff it good.
Actually.
So how are we doing there? We hear you loud and clear, Mr. President.
Oh, fantastic.
And we just paused for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Joe, are you there?
Yeah. Hey, I'm just glad to be here with my State of the Union address. Feel like it's going to be a good one. Debut of my speech. State of the Union. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah. Yes. Let's do it.
My fellow Americans, it's me, Uncle Joseph, your good buddy, single-handedly won re-election in a landslide in the midterms, about to become a third-term president here in 2025. It's a big year. We've got another big challenge coming up. We're going up against, Nikki Haley. He's shake down Donald Trump. But we need you. We need you to show up. Make sure you do not bring your voter IDs. Make sure you bring your deceased grandparents' letters of address. Vote for them too. You know they'd want to vote blue as well. Vote for me. This is a critical one. It's a big one. All right, we've got to get our third term in. It's gonna be a hard road. We're not going to finish the wall. We're not going to let any more Mexicans come to New York or California. We will make sure they stop in Texas as you prefer. And we'll try to turn Texas blue. We've also got something on the horizon, folks. K.O.E flu, it's coming. 2024. It's not going to be pretty, but we're going to get through it together. So what I got to ask you to do is what I've been asking you to do for 4 years, and that's get boosted. And how you do that, it's going to cost you nothing, okay? Absolutely nothing. Just take your Social Security cards, your W-2s to your places of tax return, and when you file for a small donation of 80% of your tax return, you can get boosters every month, every 30 days. Pennies on the dollar, if you think about it, folks, for safety, and even more. If you bring a firearm that you stole from your neighbor who bought it lawfully and you turn that in, we will give you a second booster. Now, what kind of a deal is that? Donald Trump would never have the balls to do this, but I do. And that's why you should vote for me in 2023. Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a lot of questions. You know it's 2024 now, right?
No, but when the election happens, it'll be 2023.
No, it's later this year, 2024. Anyway,
look, I don't have
don't
time
worry
to
about that.
Explain to you how
time
the
works?
government works.
Oh, yeah, the government does probably work in a mysterious way like that. How about this, Mr. President? Did you know Nikki Haley isn't the nominee?
Well, not officially. Like we've still got to finish like Costa Rica and
No,
Puerto Verde and
Joe,
Haiti.
Joe,
Haiti?
yeah,
No,
probably.
no.
Let's not
The
talk about
53rd
Haiti right
state.
now, Joe.
Oh,
Do you know who
okay.
your opponent is?
It's either Jake Paul or Mike Tyson. I can't remember who won. I think they got to fight first, and then whoever wins that fight gets to go up against me.
Mr. President, that sounds fascinating. I would love to see that. But for the election, your opponent for the election is Donald
look,
Trump.
Don't talk about my nether regions, all right? You deal with your elections how you see fit, and I'll deal with mine how I see fit.
No, election.
Now, hang on, chicken. Now, one more guess, Mr. President. Who do you think is your opponent?
Well, I would assume probably Kamala Harris at some point. Like it's there can only be two. The rule of the Sith, you know, and eventually student becomes the master, something like that.
Oh my God, Stu, you're going to be in an epic lightsaber duel. Unlimited power.
Something like that.
Excellent. Now, all right, chicken, rip the Band-Aid off.
No, sir. Your opponent is Donald Trump. You were having a rematch against Donald Trump.
No. I beat him the first time in like 1998, and then I won re-election. Nobody ran against me in the midterms. I won in a landslide. You were all there. You voted for me 8 times each. I left him in the dust. He's not coming back. I put him in jail. Okay, we threw so many charges at him. One of them had to stick.
Not yet.
So far he's he's free, and he is the Republican nominee.
No.
Yes.
No.
I'm afraid so, Joe. Can't keep a good man down.
So what words do you have for your rematch with Donald Trump? Like what's going to be different this time? You both are the oldest presidents and the oldest people to ever run for president, and even older now. You guys set the old record. Now you're setting the new record. So you're like, take credit where you can, I guess. Joe.
What?
Joe. Yeah.
Okay, so what's going to be what's going to be different, Fat? All right, look, what's going to be different this time around? I'm going to tell you right now. Here's the skinny for you, Fat. This time around, this guy thinks he's got Joe by the ropes because I've spent the last 7 years trying to fix what he fucked up in 12, all right? It's been a long, arduous road. It's not been easy, but we're right there. I told you when you elected me, I was a one-term president. What that means is it's going to take me one lifetime to fix all the things that he fucked up. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to grant me executive powers that give me the ability to stay in office posthumously, probably, to fix all the damage that Donald Trump has done. We're almost there. Things had to get worse before they got better, folks. Okay, that's just how these things work. Don't ask details. Don't try to think you know better than somebody who's been in the government for 70 years like myself. I just know better. You don't know shit. Okay? You are the American people. You vote for me, and that's how that works. I do the job so you don't have to. Donald Trump can't do that. He's only been in politics, you know, if you want to call politics Stormy Daniels. That's the only amount of politics he's been in. All right? That's it. That cheese doodle doesn't know a damn thing about, you know, getting up on that stage and lying to the people. I mean, talking to the people. All he could do was talk on Twitter, and he can't even do that now. So,
Actually, you can, Joe.
So, Joe, I got a question for you. They recently had that deposition and questioned you about your documents that you had in your garage next to your Corvette, and it sounded like you had forgotten when you were the vice president. You'd forgotten your son's date of when he passed away. Should we be concerned with your mental capacity at this point?
Well, look, it's not like I was there. What the fuck do you want me to remember it for? Jesus. People think I'm a Rolodex information? Come on. What the fuck? The amount of grief that you people put on me on a daily basis is insane. You know, I got real world problems here. You think I got time to remember an anniversary? I guarantee you've forgotten one there, Rooster. Don't put your voodoo on me. It's ridiculous. So look, what we're going to do is we're going to ban TikTok, and this is all going to go away. Simple as that, Jack.
Isn't that what Donald Trump had proposed 6 years ago?
Yeah, well, he also proposed putting up a wall. How'd that go? Ha! He also tried to make insulin cheap. Well, guess what? Executive order. And then 3 years later, I do the same thing. That's how we do this. I'm crafty.
So you just keep taking credit for his ideas.
That's how you got to do it, Rooster. Except the bad ones. All
Fair.
the bad stuff that I've done, that was all him.
Oh, he did it.
Obviously, Orange Man bad.
All right.
Well, folks, we're going to find out this November. Is Orange Man bad or is Wrinkly Senile Man bad?
He's both.
Joe, or how's your health? Are you going to make it? You got 8 months.
Oh, shit. Look, you can't. I am at my peak performance physically, mentally, sexually,
God.
intravenously, expressively, El Troubadour-isly. You couldn't put
Adrenochromedly?
any amount of ivermectin in my body and not expect me to be able to run a 15K. Jack.
It's okay. That's very reassuring. If you do get reelected, how confident are you to make it another 4 years in the toughest job in the world?
Let alone alive.
So after I win another re-election and become a third-time president, which if you take that and you add it to 2 or 3 vice presidential terms, I think I was also the president of the Jiffy Club Customer of the Month Club. So that's like 18. So you take that, you put it all together. And I worked there for a summer. That was in between me. I think I was park ranger and a Walker, Texas Ranger. That was back in '87. Or was it 88?
They rub oil on your hairy legs.
No, 88. That's when I went on tour with Metallica. It was the Justice for All tour. So yeah, 8 months. That's what I got to make. Okay. So look, 8 months. Shut up, fat. Listen, 8 months. We're golden. We're good to go. Not only am I going to make it past 8 months, I'm going to make it another 80 years. I am a physical specimen, a genetic freak. You can't get to this level by just sheer tenacity and willpower alone. You got to have something a little extra. Grow the Farm Up knows what the fuck I'm talking about, but I digress. Look,
that is a good question. How much Adderall did you take to stay up past 8 p.m. for the State of the Union?
Look, I might have a liquid IV going into my thigh right now, but you can't see that. So that's really neither here nor there.
How about the next question Grow the Farm Up has? You were late, sir, by quite a bit. Other than the protesters, I don't think the protesters held you up. You were late leaving.
Come on, man.
Look. You didn't even leave until minutes before you were supposed to be there. So,
can I ask you something?
Absolutely, sir.
Who gives the State of the Union speech?
Well, the president should.
Yeah, who's the president?
Well, according to everybody, apparently it's you.
Oh, so the State of the Union speech can't happen until I get there, is what you're saying.
So you don't really
So I can just show
care.
up whenever the fuck I want, Rooster. You wait on me.
Okay.
That's it. All right, the State of the Union, that's me. I am the Union. I am the state. I'm the of. I'm the. You will wait for me.
The Senate.
So yeah, I am the Senate. Joe, the State of the Union address that you gave, I don't know the state
Better
of the
than the
union.
Gettysburg Bridge.
No.
Yep, I agree.
No, sir. Sir, you said a whole bunch of shit at that speech, but I don't know how you actually I don't know how you actually feel about this country and where we're going and why we should vote for you.
I have a lot of feelings about this country. It's true honor to be held in such high regard in the eyes of the citizens of the countries of China, Israel, Ukraine, Mexico, sometimes American Samoa,
Cartels.
and portions, the blue portions of the United States. Gives me tinglies in my leg hairs.
Well, at least you're honest, Joe.
Bill, any final questions for the president before
to quote Rip Torn from the movie Canadian Bacon, Joe Biden, enjoy your only term.
This will be my fourth. Yeah, you're just scared.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You're scared of me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of these United States, Joseph R. Biden. Any last words, sir, before we let you go? I know you're a busy man.
You know what
Joe's
the R stands for,
soon.
right?
What's that?
You know what the R stands for, don't you?
Oh, no. I think I do.
No, I'm asking. I really don't know. What the fuck does it say?
Oh!
Is it Raw? Is it Randall?
Did you forget? Yeah, he forgot.
The current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the Prince gone to our nation.
Ratatouille?
Ratatouille. Joseph Ratatouille Biden.
Grow the farm up. Does Fannie Willis do it for you, Joe?
No. I've got my own fluffer. It's not Fanny.
Fuck!
All right.
We'll see you, Joe. Thanks for stopping in. We'll see you next time, buddy.
Hey, see, this guy gets
what a fucking joke. How are we doing, all of you beautiful people here at the K.O.E. Nation within the sound of my voice? Hazard Analysis, Big Buckin' Empire. Let's make sure you are. Yes, you're getting every sweet, soft summer sound that is my voice. Welcome one and all, folks. God bless every last one of you for this Friday night stream. We're going to be getting into all kinds of different discussion topics. Tony should be swinging by here a little later, but folks, you've got your King of Extreme to keep you company until the main event when Tony makes the run in. So folks, worry not. We've got plenty of entertainment lined up for you this evening. We got plenty of fun stuff that we're going to be getting into. And of course, your questions, what have you. We're going to be talking about aliens and extraterrestrials. We're going to be talking about Bishop Marmari Emmanuel. And I'm probably going to review a wheat whiskey or two. And also, subscribers, I will honor all shots. Okay, I will. So bring them on. Now, without further ado, folks, first, What are y'all drinking tonight? Me, I'm having a beautiful Old Elk straight wheat 10-year, which I'm going to get into probably a little later on, and I'll give you my impression, if you will. But without further ado, let's get right into one of the top stories. And this calls for the glasses of extreme. And we'll probably touch on this throughout the night, but we'll start now. So, for those who do not know, the attack on Bishop Marmari Emmanuel. Marmari Emmanuel is somebody that's been on my radar for some time. He is a somewhat difficult to say exactly because he's an excommunicated, if you will, Assyrian Church of the East bishop, but his congregation apparently is quite loyal to him. So he has his own congregation of very dedicated Christians, and he's become somewhat of an internet celebrity, if you will. I've seen his videos. I even credit him for inspiring parts of my The Truth About Israel and Palestine video, because when he talks about there will be no peace in Israel or Palestine until Jews and Muslims, Israelis and Palestinians all accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, the one true begotten Son of God, the one true Messiah who was crucified and died for the sins of the world. Until that day, because only Jesus grants peace, there will be no peace. Marmari Emmanuel is the first person I ever heard anything even of that kind from. And it was, when you just hear something that's just so axiomatically true, you're like, yeah, no, that's it. Well, Marmari Emmanuel was attacked about a week ago in Australia. Somebody that allegedly was shouting Allahu Akbar went with a knife, and the first stab, for one reason or another, some people say it's because the knife didn't deploy, some people say it's because just the cross got in the way. The first stab that would have been very deadly, if you watch the footage, I'm not going to play it here. You can find it elsewhere. And actually, playing that footage is very controversial worldwide. We'll get into that here a little later as well. But Marmari Emmanuel, he takes several stabs. His congregation wrestles the assailant to the ground, and you find footage of the assailants like just big old toothy grin, couldn't be happier with what this person did to an innocent man of the cloth. And Marmari Emmanuel, by all accounts, while he was still bleeding, before medical services had fully arrived, because he did have to get treated for lacerations, he gets on his knees, and by many accounts, he gets on his knees, puts his hand on the person who attacked him. Like, there's plenty of people holding him down, so puts his hand on his attacker and prays for him. And that is an example that is exemplary, difficult to follow for many, many people. But Marmari Emmanuel exemplified something there. Now, there's some people who, even if he was a mile away and kneeling, praying for his attacker, it's actually spectacular. It's actually marvelous. But to do what he actually did, and we're actually going to take a look here at Marmari Emmanuel's Instagram to give you an idea of what's going on here. So, again, the glasses of extreme are on for you beautiful people. Bam, there we go. Now, what it says there, for the folks who don't want to get their glasses on, Marmari Emmanuel teaching. After the attack, the bishop got to his feet and placed his hand on the head of the assailant and began praying for him. This is a perfect example to us all when we are under attack by the enemy. Bishop Marmari Emmanuel, you are driven by by Jesus Christ, where there is only love and forgiveness towards your attacker. We pray the Lord answers you prayers for the conversion of your attacker. But I say unto you, love your enemy, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Matthew 5:43 through 44. listens to the reading of God's holy word. So there's a picture of Marmari Emmanuel. There you go. Let's get it just a little bit bigger there. Now, I think it was just like a bot of his, but one of his like side accounts one time sent me just a very, very short, encouraging, like, "Hey, cavalry, welcome. You know, keep up the good work." And I was on my TikTok. I was like, "Really? Huh? Well, God bless." And so I think it was probably just like a bot or something. I doubt he like actually typed that out, but it was actually very nice to see that. And so Marmari Emanuel's, like I said, he's been on my personal radar for some time. So this was very shocking and very unfortunate. And I talked about this on a YouTube short not too terribly long ago that we're going to get into right now because I'm never above shameless self promotion. Sorry. Also, I had to burn a hay bale that got destroyed and it was just all messed up and you couldn't turn it into proper hay and move it about. So had to be burned. And so I got a little artsy on this, but I think you'll enjoy how this all turned out. So this was just a YouTube short that I created about this particular incident. So let's just get right into it. God bless all you within the sound of my voice. The attack on Bishop Marmari Emmanuel was terrible and it was unacceptable. It was an awful moment, and we should all pray for him and look to Bishop Marmari Emmanuel as our example. He got on his knees and he prayed for his attacker. Sadly, I fear this may have sparked something. I pray I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong. And we should all do like Bishop Marmari Emmanuel did and pray for those who would wish wickedness against us. This is a terrible situation we find ourselves in. Make do with the time you have left. God bless every last one of you. Be good to you and yours. God bless you. Travel well. And that was the YouTube short that I put together on that particular subject. So that one has gotten a very positive response overall. Interestingly enough, there's some people that are trying to spread misinformation about this, and like that's somebody that's motivated to do that. That's something I dare not speculate as to what even motivates someone like that. So one thing somebody Ben was actually saying the other day, like, Phil Marmaria, that thing happened like a week ago. Well, it's still relevant right now. I'm going to show you why, because unfortunately, or however you want to look at it, this is, like I said, sparking something. And so this is ABC News. Australian judge bans ex from sharing video of bishop being stabbed in Sydney church. An Australian judge has ruled the social media platform X must block every user in the world from accessing video of bishop being stabbed in a Sydney church, extending the prohibition beyond users in Australia. And we will get into this. Melbourne, Australia. An Australian judge on Monday ruled that social media platform X must block every user in the world from accessing video of a bishop being stabbed in a Sydney church, extending the prohibition beyond users in Australia. abcnews.go.com. Actually, I got that a little wrong, but X Corp, the tech company rebranded by billionaire Elon Musk when he bought Twitter last year, announced last week it would fight in court Australian orders to take down posts related to a knife attack on Bishop Marmari Emmanuel in an Assyrian Orthodox church as a service was being streamed online on April 15th. The material was geo-blocked from Australia, but remains available elsewhere. But the regulator that made the order, Australia's E-Safety Commission, which describes itself as the world's first government agency dedicated to keeping people safer online, successfully applied to the federal court in Sydney for a temporary global ban on the sharing of video of the bishop being like, I'm sorry, this is not in the article, but I'm just like, really? What a shock. An Australian court ruled, hey, Australia should just be able to decide what's online for everybody. What a shock that an Australian court would come to that conclusion. The article continues. In an after-hours hearing, Justice Geoffrey Kennett suppressed the footage from all X users until Wednesday, when an application for a permit ban will be heard. X has 24 hours to hide footage from users, the judge ruled. The regulator's lawyer, Stephen Tran, had argued that geoblocking Australia did not meet the definition of removal of the footage under Australian law. Tran said the footage was a, quote, graphic and violent video, end quote, that would cause, quote, irreparable harm if it's continuing to circulate, end quote. Ex-lawyer Marcus Hoyer said he had been unable to get instructions from his San Francisco-based client because it was early Monday morning in the United States. Musk has described E-Safety Commission Julie Emmanuel Grant as, quote, the Australian censorship commissar, end quote. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has earlier criticized X for refusing to remove graphic posts about the knife attack on a bishop and priest in the Christ the Good Shepherd Church. Albanese said social media posts, misinformation, and dissemination of violent images has exacerbated suffering from the church attack, which the two clerics survived, as well as a knife attack at a Sydney shopping mall 2 days earlier, which killed 6 people. Quote, social media has a social responsibility, end quote. Albanese said, quote, I find it extraordinary that X chose not to comply and are trying to argue their case, end quote. The platform's global government affairs team said on Saturday, Imam Grant had ordered it to remove some posts that commented on the church attack, but it said the post did not violate X rules on violent speech. X said the Australian regulator had demanded the platform, quote, globally withhold these posts or face a daily fine of $785,000, end quote. Quote, X believes that e-safety order was not within the scope of Australian law, and we complied with the directive pending a legal challenge, end quote, the Global Government Affairs account said. Quote, while X respects the right of a country to enforce its laws within its jurisdiction, the e-safety commissioner does not have the authority to dictate what content X users can see globally, end quote. It said, we will robustly challenge this unlawful and dangerous approach in court, end quote. It added, the live feed of the church attack and social media posts that followed attacked a crowd of 2,000 people and fueled a riot against police who barricaded the young suspected attacker inside the place of worship. The rioting injured 51 police officers and damaged 104 police vehicles, officials said. 3 alleged rioters have been arrested by Sunday, and police on Monday released images of 12 suspects they accused of being the main instigators of violence, taken from the video of the riot. A 16-year-old boy accused of the stabbing has been charged with terrorism offenses. He has received online condemnation and praise for the attack. ABC News. Now, I'm sorry, the numbers are a little disparate here. I'm just going to go ahead and say 3 people have been arrested, but they're saying 104 police vehicles have been like, you know, far be it for me to call bullshit on the news, but yeah, I'm betting we're going to find out a bit more of that in the years to come. But that is fascinating that Australia's own government is vociferously working hard to ban the viewing of that footage of Bishop Marmari Emmanuel being attacked from the whole world. And it really begs the question, why? Like, what motivates that sort of request? What motivates that sort of thinking? Delicious, delicious. It really boggles the mind because, like, this is one of what they really want to prevent. I'll tell you what they want to prevent. They want to prevent igniting the fire in the minds of men within Christendom. That's what they want to prevent. They want to keep all of Christendom good and docile, and they don't want things like that because that ignites the fire in the minds of men. And looks like the people that are in the higher echelons of government, boy, do they know it. Like I said, this is going to spark something, and I don't know what it's going to look like. I pray it's peaceful and everyone walks away having learned something. But I can't tell you what this is going to look like. So just pray for peace in that regard. But I do very, very much believe this has sparked something new. Where this, when I saw this, I was immediately reminded of a terrorist attack many, many years ago when it was in France, and it was on one of the beaches that we landed on with the Allies in Germany, or off the coast of not Germany, but France, anyways. And there was this terrible attack where these terrorists came in with fake bombs, and they beheaded the priest in front of his entire congregation, then got on the pulpit and began, like, as one of the nuns described, it looked like he was speaking some sort of sermon. And that was when I realized, like, yep, there's certain things that are incompatible that are going to be coming to a head here real soon. And here we are. Here we are. Mario Emmanuel didn't harm anybody. He didn't do anything to certainly deserve what he got. And there are many people that, they'll act like, oh, it's so terrible, like peaceful, but they always have a but. Like, I've noticed there's some folks that are going to have some sort of tepid defense for that kind of behavior. And that's why I'm worried about what's been sparked, because I've always said no relationship, no matter how large or small, can survive stacking resentments, and they're starting to stack. And I pray for peace, but I prepare for the worst. Make do with the time you have left. God bless y'all. That's my thoughts on Bishop Mario Emmanuel. Now, folks, just because it's fun and I want to, this is a video that it was recorded many years ago, but this is just one of the accidentally funniest videos. Like, we're going to get into a few of those throughout the night. This is me and Tony doing Mellow Corn versus Nebraska's own Howard Hooch. It's just a short video that was just too fun. So without further ado, let's just enjoy this for a few minutes, folks. Welcome, one and all, to the most premium of premium spirits review possible. We are going to review spirits so good that it will actually fix your broken relationships and make the actual check engine light on your car go off. I'm sorry.
No, this is staying in.
Welcome, one and all, to the K.O.E Nation for a corn whiskey showdown. I am your King of Extreme Phil K.O.E, joined by my indomitable broadcast partner, the one, the only.
Oh, just a simple blend master, Tony G. Like, share, subscribe.
Yes, we are matching up two very distinct corn whiskeys. We are matching up the known the world over, Mellow Corn, bottled in bond, straight Kentucky corn whiskey, 100 proof, Kentucky's finest, as it says, from Heaven Hill Distillery, versus Howard Hooch from Loop River Distillery, unaged corn whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, Loop River from St. Paul, Nebraska. So we are putting unaged Nebraska corn whiskey up against the world-known Mellow Corn.
Yes, Mellow Corn is pretty much the heavyweight of the corn whiskey phenomenon. But let's face it, it's
Let's go with that.
It's up there with Scotch, Irish, bourbon, and
Rye,
then corn
yeah.
whiskey.
Now,
Mellow
honestly,
corn.
if you enjoy bourbon, then guess what? You do enjoy corn whiskey.
Yeah, and it's got a nice color and a nice yellow cap.
I think they might add a little coloring to this.
You think?
Call me crazy. I might be off.
You don't get that from the folks at Howard Hooch and Loop River Distillery. This
So-
is clear as it gets, folks.
Yes, it's unaged corn whiskey. So we're gonna contrast and compare these two corn whiskeys and see how they stack up against each other. So
Color alone, obviously, the mellow corn has the added coloring. The Hooch.
oh wow,
is
Howard Hooch has a
clear.
much more pronounced corn nose.
Mellow corn has the ethanol. Oh goodness,
Yeah, just a pronounced
Wow.
corn nose. Like
that is a ripe corn.
like it
wow.
just comes straight through.
Yeah, that hands down on the nose for corn whiskey. Sorry, but Howard Hooch,
Yeah.
you're the winner. Wow.
It's like you said, it's more ethanol that you get on the
Yeah.
mellow corn, but this one, you just get that corn, which is fascinating.
It's really nice, though. I mean,
Oh yeah, it's lovely.
Wow.
So
Very familiar for us.
let's see how they hit the palate. Let's do let's do mellow corn first,
All right.
and then we'll finish off with Nebraska's own. So mellow corn first. Very distinctive whiskey bite.
Yeah,
It's really
it
about-
slashes you like a whiskey should.
And there's a little bit of a corn flavor to it.
Yeah, I mean, and
That's
that's
really all you're going to
about
pull out of it.
it. You're not gonna get any complexities here. And I'll be honest, like I feel like some of the coloration almost has the flavor.
Yeah. They're referred to as distillers caramels.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it depends on the whiskey. It helps, sometimes don't. So now I'm curious how Nebraska's own Howard Hooch unaged corn whiskey.
It's already one on the nose.
Wow. Very robust flavor.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's immediately more complex.
Without any aging. It's just the grain, the water, and the distillation process.
The corn whiskey shines through above everything else, obviously, but it's very clean and you know what you're getting. And it's honestly, this tastes like this looks.
Yes. I'll give you that. That's a very good way of putting it because this has a very strong forward flavor of corn.
Yeah.
And we know these folks, they say it's from their own field, so they're going to put some of the best corn that's going to distill the easiest because they want to put their best foot forward.
And we know it's high quality grain.
And also it comes from high quality water because, as Richard Patterson would say, water is the backbone of any whiskey. So
I think the funny one was the mellow corn review. Sorry, folks. We're almost done with this.
That's what kind of puts it over the top for me. But let's go ahead and let's grade them each as a corn whiskey against each other.
Okay.
As a corn whiskey, what do you give mellow corn?
I'm trying to remember what we gave it.
I think we both, like, as a smart aleck, we gave it 4 because it's
Yeah.
corn whiskey.
And to be fair, that's probably fair as a corn whiskey. Yeah, sure, 4. I mean, I guarantee there are corn whiskeys out there that come well below 4.
Yeah, if you're talking straight corn whiskey.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 4.25 to 4.5. I'm trying to figure out.
As a corn whiskey, 4.5. Yeah,
And
the Howard Hooch 4.5.
And the reason why, and this is a term you've coined, this would really shine as a kitchen whiskey. Imagine, like I said, just with this, but even more so with this because it has so much more corn character. imagine soaking a ribeye or any kind of steak in this overnight in the fridge, and
Ooh,
every
yeah.
tissue is imbued with a corn character and a corn flavor.
Yeah.
And you get that. This cost me $16.
And this was
$18. So, you know, $2 more. This one, in my opinion, is a superb cooking whiskey. And as you can see, I've used it as thus many times. And it goes great with just about any meat.
I'll be honest, I think the corn flavor is better in the Howard Hooch because I think the corn flavor in the mellow corn is buttered corn. It's an imposter flavor.
It's like, yeah, buttered popcorn from the theaters.
Yeah, that's the corn flavor.
And this is going out to a sweet corn patch.
Yeah.
Not even disconnecting it from
No.
the stalk, just peeling the leaves back and
You're
taking a bite.
getting a legitimate corn flavor with the Howard Hooch.
Yeah, this is robustly corn.
Yeah.
And I would say, like I said, great kitchen whiskey, almost better than a drinking whiskey, because I have mixed this with soda. It mixes fine. It's not, you know.
You know what you're getting.
Yes, but that's what I would tell you, folks, is excellent cooking whiskey. They're both great cooking whiskeys.
No,
actually.
nobody needs to go into a corn whiskey thinking they've found the next scotch by any means. You're getting corn whiskey, and if you like that, these are your two heavyweights, I think. Honestly, in terms of what I've had.
Yeah, yes. Mellow corn is kind of
it's the staple.
Yes, it's the market corner
Yeah.
of corn whiskey, and we wanted to compare it with Nebraska's own Howard Hooch. A very good distillate. I don't know about the marketing. I like when you call something hooch, people are kind of skeptical of it, I've noticed. So I found it to be a very well done distillate.
I was just gonna say, look how empty that bottle is. So that's pretty good corn whiskey right there.
Yes. So I'm gonna say, folks, if you get the chance and it's a competition between the two, first of all, you're gonna save $2. And we're both from Nebraska, and we would love to see businesses from our beloved state of Nebraska succeed.
We may be a touch biased, but no, the facts are in. Like, look here. Nose, Howard Hooch. Appearance, I'll give the appearance to mellow corn.
Yep.
Flavor, yeah, it's not even close. I'm sorry. Howard Hooch, all the way. No, taste, flavor, all of it. This is your winner. Anybody who enjoys this and would like to seek out another kind of corn whiskey, the other 49 states, you corn whiskey connoisseurs, get a hold of us here at the K.O.E Nation. We will find a way to get this to you because the folks at Loot River Distillery have found a recipe that works and the ingredients are pure.
Yep, folks. This is a nice little corn whiskey matchup, a little head-to-head. And, yep, Tony.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yep, we knew that was
coming. The blend master is always experimenting, and there we go.
Richard Patterson's got nothing on this guy.
I mean, he's got the chops. He'll get there one day. I've got some ideas.
He reminds you a lot of a younger version of yourself.
He does. I mean, he's
got potential.
He's got potential.
And I'll just say it straight up. Richard Patterson is my personal whiskey spirit animal. But so, folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us for this little whiskey head-to-head. Tony, how is it? Corn?
It's pretty fucking good.
Oh, Lord. So, folks, I am your King of Extreme, Phil, K.O.E.
Now, folks, I do apologize.
K.O.E Nation.
I thought I was giving you this video, which was what was accidentally a very, very, very funny video. And so I do apologize for that, folks. That one was a pretty straight up comparison. But I got a couple of videos pulled up that are some of the stuff that's the accidentally funniest stuff we've ever done. And we're going to get into aliens and such a little later. Unless you got some questions about aliens, drop them in the comments, because Tucker Carlson on Joe Rogan the other day just kind of blew the lid off of a lot of things. And I think they're trying to slowly get us ready for the big reveal. We'll see. We'll see. We're going to get into that a little later because I promised you an actually funny video. So we're going to deliver on that promise now. Welcome, one and all, to the K.O.E. Nation for our official review of mellow corn. As you can see, folks, we're going back on the farm. So I am your King of Extreme, Phil K.O.E., also a corn farmer, so I had to check this out, joined by my indomitable broadcast partner.
I work at a grain elevator. I'm Tony fucking G, your blend master. Like, share, subscribe. Woo!
So, folks,
It's happening.
mellow corn, Kentucky's finest. It says it right here on the bottle, Tony. See, Kentucky's finest.
100, and all of you hipsters know 100 is the best.
100 proof.
Yep.
Bottled in bond.
I'm going to go ahead and ruin my taste buds now.
I appreciate that. But, you know, I'm sure it's going to deny us so much.
I'm sure the complexities and the flavor profile of this mellow corn that's a twist off cap.
I'm sure you just ruined it.
So the joke here was there's a meme, 2020, hashtag 2020, hashtag COVID-19, day one of quarantine, Blanton's, Booker's, Little Book, all the fine bourbons that there are to acquire. Day like 90 of quarantine. Mellow corn. So,
In a styrofoam cup.
we thought it's only appropriate in this year to taste test. Is this Canadian?
No, it's Kentucky.
Are you sure it's Kentucky or is it
It
really?
says right there,
It might-
Kentucky's
It might
finest.
say it.
Cannot lie
All
on the
right.
bottle, I'm sure. So
All right.
it's never happened before in the history of whiskey.
Yeah, no, they don't lie. Jack Daniels.
Ouch. Yeah, let me just get that away.
Well,
It smells of corn.
I'm just a simple farmer, but
It does smell of corn.
it smells like corn.
It does smell.
As
of
proud Nebraskans, you can take our word for this. This smells like
corn.
corn. They don't lie. Okay, you know what? Marketing on point, because it
Very
says
on
it
brand.
right here.
Corn.
Corn, and the fucking logo is yellow and green.
Corn.
Corn.
Yes.
There you go. Like,
Now,
they nailed
Tony,
it.
let's see how this hits the palate. Now, duly noted, we're a couple of whiskeys in on review night, so
We're like 6, 7 in on this. It might score a little higher than it should.
we'll see what happens. So,
Bottoms up.
the flavor is corn.
Well, I'm going to counter that, Phil. I think the flavor profile is sweet corn.
You know,
Not bad.
I think it's a blend of corn and sweet corn.
Well, as blend master, I would be hard pressed to disagree with that astute
I mean,
recommendation.
as a corn farmer, I think, gotta give me some credit on that one. I mean,
so say you're hard on your luck, or you just couldn't make it to payday, or you just need a quick snack for a meal, you go to the cupboard. You grab a corn can out of the old cupboard, and you pop that open with the old can opener, and you just grab a spoon out of the drawer. You start eating that corn right out of the can. Maybe you heat it up on the stovetop first. Maybe you don't. This is what you smell. Corn.
That's what you taste. Is
What you taste?
corn.
That is corn.
Um,
They don't lie. The marketing nailed this one
I think it's the
out of
new
the park.
drinking game for this particular video is you have to drink every time we say corn.
That is so corn.
Yeah.
Dare I say, that is corny. This is the official drink of
corn.
Jim Cornette's podcast, both of them, because it is so corny.
Wow, Tony, that one was so corny. I think it gave me a cavity. Wow. I need to see a dentist now after that.
Okay, so what are the complex? This
It's
this
straight,
couldn't be more.
straight corn whiskey bottled at
But
100.
hang on. This is bottled in bond for all you bourbon fans. This is bottled in bond, so you'd probably pay twice what it retails at.
Well, what bottled in bond means is that
Doesn't matter.
it was held in a government bonded warehouse. Because you got to remember, back in the day, there were some distillers that would literally like spit tobacco into their whiskey to give it color.
Yeah,
okay, so bottled and bond warehouses prevented that.
No.
And one of the regulations is it has to be bottled at 100 proof. That's what bottled and bonds mean.
Sure. But people will pay big money for this stupid little thing that says bottled in bond. You'd probably pay twice this for this masterpiece of mellow corn.
I paid $17.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people in the comments that are like, you overpaid.
I love how it's just 50% ABV, 100 proof. Like, it can't get more straight and narrow than that. 50 to 100 ratio. Yeah, we're not going to get any more in depth than that.
Well, there is no more information.
I wish there was a back description. There's not. Because there doesn't need to be. They barely had room for the UPC code.
So, we're going to grade this on a few scales here, T.
Oh, good.
As a corn whiskey.
All right.
I mean, that's kind of
all right.
Fair. As a whiskey. In order for it to have the straight whiskey, it has to be aged.
All right.
So
is it aged? We don't know.
It can be aged for a very short time. There's no minimum requirement. So there, you know how there's that Pabst whiskey that's been like aged for like a few seconds.
Okay.
So we will be aging it on or grading it as a cask aged spirit.
All right.
Oh boy.
Yep.
And shelving. And the secret question. So Tony, as a corn whiskey.
As a corn whiskey. Wow.
I mean, it is mellow.
You know, I was just thinking.
It is a touch
mellow corn. In terms of corn whiskey, that's one of the mellowest corn whiskeys, and I've had a lot.
Yeah, we actually.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably that's more than we admit to. But you know, it's pretty mellow as a corn. I'll give that a 3 as a corn whiskey.
I figured, as a corn whiskey, you'd have to give it a 5 star as a corn whiskey. I'm not going to go quite that high, because
Hang on. It smells like corn. It tastes like corn. All right, you've convinced me. That's a 4-star corn whiskey.
I'm going with you.
You're right.
It's 4 stars.
You're right.
But all right, mellow corn, I'm sorry. It's about to get a lot less generous from here.
Is there such a thing as a 5-star corn whiskey? Because I don't know if there is.
Well, you know, we've got one made right here in Nebraska that is actually not too bad. As a
Sorry,
corn.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
For Nebraska, we've got better corn.
Oh snap! Whoa! Shots fired!
Suck it, Iowa.
Oh, shots
Double shots.
fired! Wow. So, as a whiskey, Tony,
2. 2.
2.
2. You could do a lot worse. I'll be honest. You could do a lot worse. Like, this is not intrusive. They're not kidding when they say mellow. It is mellow, but there's no complexity here.
It is corn.
This is a corn with, like, you're not going to get past that. It's a corn whiskey.
There's no getting past it when that's all the
No.
Like Tony,
No.
that'd be like eating a can of creamed corn.
Yeah.
And be like, I'm trying to get past the corn flavor
Like,
here.
the
I don't understand.
aftertaste of drinking this is
When-
eating a can of creamed corn.
When does the aftertaste of
No.
sweet cherries come? No, it's corn. Now,
That's it.
as a cask aged spirit,
I'm going to stick with 2.
I'm gonna give it 1.5.
Oh.
Okay, because we don't even know how much cask influence there is here. They won't tell us anything.
Let me
There's nothing on the back here.
let me be frank about my 2-star rating real quick.
Go ahead.
It's November. I routinely do this thing in my diet called No Sugar November, which is a very low sugar. Like, natural fruits can have sugar. Oatmeal has a little bit of sugar, but that's it. I don't eat any sugar for November to try to get my diet back on track. And I'm assuming that this has a ton of sugar. So my 2-star rating, probably pretty high because I haven't had sugar in like 3 weeks. So, mellow corn, whatever your sugar volume is, you probably just killed me for the week.
True. Now, I will say, despite all my poor ratings, think of this,
Okay.
actually. If you're going to have fillets, ribeyes, and you soak them in this overnight in the fridge, okay? You've got a corn whiskey that's going to imbue every inch and every tissue of those steaks with a good corn character. So I think as a cooking whiskey, this excels because it also costs so little you don't feel bad throwing a splash in the pan.
I'll go on the record and say I think there's not been a better bottle of whiskey or alcohol, for that matter, that we have reviewed, or you even by yourself have reviewed on your channel, that's more appropriate for cooking than mellow corn at under $20 a bottle. That's a cooking whiskey for the everyday man and for the connoisseur of the booze cooker.
I was about to say, because you can mix this with a soda, okay?
I don't know that I would.
It wouldn't be your first choice, but again, it's
No.
like the meme. If you're in day 90 of quarantine and you've drank up all your good Blantons.
Picture this. You're a 17-year-old high school kid. Your buyer sucks. You give them $30
No.
and they come back with this and keep like $10
Hello, corn.
of the cash that you gave them, and they hand you a bottle of that, and you can't say shit about it because, hey, you're 17 and you can't be choosy. So you just got to say thank you. And then you got to go into the convenience store and buy pop soda for some of you to mix with the booze that you've fortunately acquired, and it's this. I mean, you maybe get some Dr. Pepper. Yeah, I think that's the only thing, because Dr. Pepper's more complex
Before
than
you
this.
continue, here at the K.O.E. Nation, we only encourage responsible alcohol use. So this is all Tony G just discussing his own,
from yesteryear.
Yeah, tumult and chaos of his yesteryear.
Yeah.
But yeah, mellow corn.
Dr. Pepper.
It'd work with Dr. Pepper.
Root beer, maybe. But Dr. Pepper.
It serves a very specific.
It'll get you drunk.
Yeah. Mix it with apple cider. I think you might actually get something out of this. It won't be as good as bourbon. No, it will not be as good as a bourbon.
That's more of a Thanksgiving cornucopia. At that point, you're mixing fruit and vegetables, and I don't know that it's going to be a great.
Have it with a turkey sandwich.
Oh, we are.
That's
you know
the
what?
saddest thing.
You got to get this up before Thanksgiving, Phil.
Yep, this one's going. That's the saddest Thanksgiving dinner
For
there.
those of you who are going to chance Thanksgiving dinner with your family, and you cannot stand your family, and you just want to get schnocker drunk, get you a bottle. You can go in with a $20 bill, walk out with a bottle of mellow corn and some change. You're going to get drunk, and you're going to argue about politics and sports, and you're going to just love the world or hate it.
Yeah. At 100 proof, you will. It'll get you there. Okay, copyright 1945, regulation U.S. Patent Office. So this is a formula that's been around since the end of the Second World War.
Tried and true, folks.
Let's go with that. But yeah, I've heard there are little corners of the country where this is just really popular.
Well, I mean, it's sweet, it's whiskey.
It is.
And it's affordable.
I mean, I was about to say, in terms of affordability, it is right there. In terms of,
I've had a lot worse than
kind of.
this.
No, I would.
But again, we're like 7 whiskeys deep.
I would expect to also kind of see this at like the dollar store, like next to the coconut liqueur. Like, yeah, that's kind of where I would expect to find this as well.
Not even the high dollar coconut liqueur, like the off-brand.
Yeah.
Like, this is Costco whiskey that they would rebottle and pretend is high dollar whiskey.
I wouldn't go that far. You know, mellow corn, folks. Hey, I'm a corn farmer, so I appreciate the fact that you're trying to put out a product that people can find. And hey, it is what it is. It is corn whiskey. This is the United States. We have corn.
Did you know it's corn whiskey?
Yes, you did. And folks, if you actually tried to play the drink along game every time we said corn in this video, I apologize because you don't understand a word we're saying at this point. And so
I feel this is a video geared towards like heart of the Midwest, Nebraskans, Kansas, Iowans. Corn whiskey, folks.
Straight. Bottle and bond.
And Kentucky.
Yes.
You tried.
That's pretty good. So, as I'm known to say around here, folks.
Wait, oh, hang on. No. Phil, you're forgetting a couple of the grading scales here. We can't gloss over this.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, no, we can't gloss over that.
Oh, no.
Phil,
okay,
what shelf are you going to put mellow corn on?
Tony, I know it's going to come as kind of a shock to you.
Okay.
But where I'm going to put mellow corn, I'm going to put it.
He likes it so much.
No, I'm putting it down here so that people don't know that I have a bottle of it.
Oh. No, I'll do you one better.
I'm kidding.
Hang on. No. I got this. Phil. Mellow corn. You are going there. Mellow corn is on the middle of Phil's poker table, and the next time Phil holds a poker tournament, that's what he's going to hand off to get it drank.
There you go.
Quicker.
So,
the secret question, Phil. When that bottle's empty, will you seek out another bottle of mellow corn straight Kentucky whiskey? Will you?
You know, Tony, if I find one at a good sale price.
And he got this at $18
with
today.
tax.
With tax.
I may consider. When I empty that bottle, Tony, I'm not going to rush out. It's not like, oh no, my Dalmore 15 is empty. I need to make sure that I have another one in stock. I can go a few days
Few days, huh?
without a bottle of mellow corn on hand. I think I can go maybe even a month, maybe a few.
This is distilled and bottled by Heaven Hill Distilleries. Do we
Really?
Yeah,
Get out of here.
that's what it says.
Heaven Hill. Well,
What
hey.
else do they do?
Hang on.
Oh no. You have a comparison? Oh no. Oh no. Well, for 4 times the price of what he paid for this bottle.
Yeah, Heaven Hill, they do
Oh no.
they do Elijah Craig, they do Pikesville Rye, they do Evan Williams, Larceny, and Brenheim Original Wheat Whiskey. So they do Evan Williams and Elijah Craig at Heaven Hill, and this is the just corn.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
We'll be getting into this later.
That's a spoiler alert.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is a Heaven Hill distillery, so we were gonna put this across a couple different videos. We were like, so what does Heaven Hill do? Funny you should ask that.
Yeah, today even. Wow. So you're saying you wouldn't exactly rush out to buy another bottle of mellow corn straight Kentucky straight corn with
So Tony, let me ask you.
okay.
Would you seek to add a bottle of mellow corn to your liquor collection?
Some of the worst whiskey I've ever had.
It's not a good way to start this particular
Question, yeah. Some of the worst whiskey I've ever had was some of the first bottling of Larceny bourbon ever.
And that's Heaven Hill.
Yeah, there's a better offering in the package you just showed, and I'm more eager to try that than I would be to seek out a bottle of this specific. If this was on sale for like 10 bucks, and I'm like, I want to get somebody a gift that, not that I don't not like them, but I know they want to have a night there where they can just get shit-faced, snockered drunk. You know what? You could do a lot worse than mellow corn. But this is not just a bottom shelf whiskey. This is, like I said, you set it on the poker table and say, hey, Dad, drink up. I'm not going to seek it out now that I've got the chance to try it. And thank you for eating that bill.
I know. God, that's like $17. Will I ever?
But you know what? We're being a bit facetious here. And I'll be honest. You know what? There's probably a few bottles on your bottom shelf that you probably grab this bottle before you grab the others. Let's be completely fair.
Yep. So, folks, thank you for
Mellow
joining us
corn.
for this in-depth review of mellow corn from Heaven Hill Distillery, which we're going to be watching you with a bit more of a skeptical eye going forward, Heaven Hill.
Not only did they have an under $20 bottle, but they had a sampler pack.
50
3
bucks.
times the price.
Yeah, $50 for the sampler pack. But so, oh Lord. So,
That
folks,
kills me.
as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us on this review of mellow corn, Kentucky straight corn whiskey. I am your King of Extreme, Phil K.O.E, signing off and handing it off to my indomitable broadcast partner.
Tony G, thank you so much.
Later. Marvelous. I knew one of y'all was going to come along. I knew it. I was ready. I knew one of you was coming along. So I got my barrel-aged gin here. Bandit, I was just starting to like you. Oh, God. Let's just put, you know what? Yep, let's just set that right on top of the word gin on your message there. That's more appropriate. Bandit, and to everyone within the sound of my voice, to fighting, stealing, and drinking. If you're going to fight, may it be for a friend. If you're going to steal, may it be a lover's heart. And if you're going to drink, by God, I hope it's with me. Woo! That's terrible. That's terrible. Oh, God. Bandit, why do you do that to me? It's not nice. It's not very nice. But oh, let's see. But when he said, this is a true comment, when Bandit said, they don't even have the common decency to put it in a mason jar. I think that would actually improve mellow corn's flavor by like 20% if they did that. And then Bandit goes, which is worse, that or mellow? Oh, that's way worse. Mellow corn whiskey would be welcome and delicious. Now, Bandit, you will like this. When Tony gets back, we reviewed a whiskey that he absolutely despises called Sweeten's Cove. He hates that shit. And that's the new one. In fact, I'll pull up that video here because I actually got it uploaded. It hasn't premiered yet, but I do have it uploaded. Tony absolutely despises fucking Sweeten's Cove. And so I left that at his house as his new, what he's got to take a shot of, because he was running low on the millet whiskey. So I didn't want him to be without Bandit. And so I made sure that he's got this terrible whiskey that he's not a fan of at all. And he's got plenty of it. And it's Peyton Manning's Sweeten's Cove whiskey. So here, I'm actually going to give you all a world premiere. And now, from now on, Bandit, if you need to give Tony a shot, give him a shot of this, because this is bad. This is bad unto itself, and it needs to be observed. It needs to be observed. And also, I was going to review this 10-year-old elk wheat whiskey, but I need to let my palate have a moment before I give any kind of review. But yeah, Sweeten's Cove, he hates this shit. Now, you'll love this. It's a blend of Tennessee whiskey and Kentucky bourbon, because this golf course is a little bit on both. And it's not good. It's not good, Bandit. Making notes. Sweeten's Cove. Yes, as you should. As you should. And without further ado, it's also a debut of a new copyright-free Western song I was able to find. So this will be in the background of a few more videos of mine going forward too. So let's see how it goes, folks. Welcome, one and all, to the K.O.E. Nation for a very special Spirits review, folks. Are we going to Tennessee? We going to Kentucky? Neither. We're going to Tennessee with Sweeten's Cove. I am your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes you the podcast cower. You can, of course, find me at K.O.E. Nation on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter-X, depending on your political persuasion. And folks, Sweeten's Cove, it's something I'm looking forward to, and I am joined by my indomitable broadcast partner, the one, the only,
the 16-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast Champion, quadruple distilled, non-chill filtered, your blend master of ceremonies himself, Tony fucking G, here for a, just thank God we're finally doing it and getting it done with, review. Sweeten's Cove.
Oh, this is going to be great. Now,
whatever
Tony,
the fuck whiskey.
Well, now, for my limited research, this is whiskey that is owned by, I think it's Joe Montana, and it's they make this. It's for Joe Montana's golf course, right?
Right. It's Peyton Manning.
Oh,
He not a bad pop. Does Peyton Manning own Sweeten's Cove bourbon? Peyton Manning can't help but use football analogies to delineate his new life in the world of spirits. Call it muscle memory, but when the two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback and co-host of the Manning cast explains Sweeten's Cove, the bourbon brand he co-owns with Austin resident and former world... No, that's where the Google check stopped, and that's as far as I need to go.
So it's one of the Mannings.
Yeah, it's Peyton, because of course it is. Yeah. So I'm on the
He
Sweetens
needed a
Cove
sign
Spirits
project.
site. It's a 9. It started with a golf course, Sweetens Cove. It's a 9-hole track at the end of a gravel gray. I'm not shitting you. What the website says. It's a 9-hole track at the end of a grave L road. There's a space between grave and L. Supposed to say gravel. In this Sequatchie Valley, this breathtaking setting has been called Golf's Field of Dreams. A group of friends.
No one called it that.
This group of friends probably did. That bought Sweetens Cove in 2019, knowing that if golf had national parks, this would be one.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
A rare magical place to be protected, preserved, and shared. Today, it remains a public treasure, the endpoint of pilgrimages for fanatics and aficionados. To new friends, old friends, and day at Sweetens.
It's the Avatar planet of golf, apparently.
Haven't talked about the whiskey yet. Sweden's never had a clubhouse or even plumbing, but it was one of the most acclaimed sporting experiences in the world.
We've gotten into the plumbing, though.
It was building in its own traditions. One of those, a celebratory shot of whiskey for the first time was on the first tee, and that's it.
Well,
When
Tony,
you go to SwedensCupSpirits.com and go to About Us, that's what you get. Then
that tells me a lot about the
there's
kind
a
of
buy now option, an our story option, a blending option, recipes, find us, and merch. Oh, good. I can buy more shit. Blending? Oh, there's people who, okay. Marianne Eves, Master Blender. Okay, that was it. Recipes. Oh, let's see. Oh, you can make an Albatross Stinger, an Arnold Palmer, Azalea Smash, Birdie Boole, 19th hole fashioned, Mulligan Mule, Fairway Hatton. Ooh, these are fantastic.
It's not
is
telling
there
us a lot about the whiskey.
anything about the whiskey? Oh, you go to buy now. Oh, Tennessee, a blend of Tennessee and Kentucky bourbon whiskeys. 2021 specialty release, 2022 special release. Okay, so there you go.
Now, Tony, okay, luckily, on the back of this bottle here, there's a lot about the whiskey, all right?
Oh, thank goodness.
just-
At least by the end of me reading all this, I'll actually be thirsty enough to drink this. Did we just become best friends? Who better than Master Blender Marianne Eves to bring the heated historic rivalry of Kentucky and Tennessee bourbon together in one bottle? These proud rivals share a commitment to craftsmanship and culture, land and legacy. Now experience one delicious, dynamic blend among friends. We can still pick sides about horses or football, alma maters or music. Either way, let's raise a glass, celebrate our common love for damn good bourbon. Again.
So, Tony, it talked about music, horses, football, alma maters.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's Kentucky and Tennessee bourbon whiskeys finished with toasted sugar maple wood. 55.35 ABV, 110.7 proof. That's as good as it gets. So
it's a blend of Kentucky bourbon and Tennessee whiskey.
Sometimes the story's better than the treasure, huh? All right. Haven't even had it yet, folks.
To the nose.
It's sweet.
Yeah, it's very sweet. It kind of reminds me of George
Shocker.
Dickel. I know, but it reminds me of Jorge Dickel just a little bit.
Does it? Wonder if that's the.
I'm guessing it's Orson.
Wonder if that's, yeah. Okay. It's fine. There's nothing breathtaking here. It's sugar. I can almost smell the maple.
Well, T.
Yeah.
I'm smelling the Tennessee whiskey blending with the actual bourbon, and it's making something unique that does not normally exist in nature. It's kind of like when a tiger and a lion like cross make like a liger or something. That's pretty much what this is. Now, granted, this is by football legend Peyton Manning, which I know so much about all of the varying games that he's won. Like, it's like,
name one team he played for.
He was in the Colts and the Broncos, T. So there you go. There you go.
Very good.
We'll edit it like a few moments later. The Colts and the Broncos. So the Manning brothers, of which I'm basically sort of like a British mastermind when it comes to all things Manning. This project, it's very near and dear to Eli Manning's heart. I mean, Peyton Manning's heart. There we go. Very near and dear to his heart. And he's been really deeply involved. He's been as involved in this as The Rock was in Terramana Tequila.
Okay, that's finally something fair you said.
So let's take a pallet of this
We shall.
fine whiskey tea.
The fuck is that?
That is a little weird.
What the fuck is that?
That's a little off.
You think? Oh man, that Robitussin finish really drives this one home.
Unfortunately, yeah, there's kind of this weird, like, medically acrid medicine flavor to it. And we all know how much we love the flavor acrid.
I'd love to pair this up against Castle and Key and Bluestone Manor.
Or Koval.
Yeah.
So let's go in again, T.
Can we? It's a lot more Cove than it is Sweetens.
I will say the nose and palate do not match.
Well, that sucks.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say no. This is not good. Tony. You know, when I have to give an honest review of something that I'm not really like. I'll usually say something like, "Well, that's less than good."
Certainly is less.
So we're getting to the interesting point of this video where we're going to grade this on a couple of 5-star
I'm
scales.
just looking forward to the point where I can drink water.
Yeah, this just does have kind of this weird bitterness on the back of the tongue, doesn't it? That's not pleasant.
Yeah.
But we're going to grade this 5, meaning you have to have it before you shuffle out this mortal coil. 0, meaning pass it on by. The K.O.E Nation has advised you well. So we're going to grade this as a bourbon.
Are we?
As a Tennessee whiskey. We're going to grade it as a blend. As a whiskey, it's shelving. And for those new to the show, the secret 6 question. So, Tony, as a bourbon, how would you grade this?
1.5.
I'll go 1.75.
Wow, that's gracious of you.
Mm-hmm.
So did Heaven Hill bottle this, or
no? Because there's actual flavors. They might be bad, but there's flavors. Okay. No, don't you put that on them.
All right.
All right. Tony's like, I'll give him that. As a Tennessee whiskey, Tony.
2.
Yeah, 2. Now, as a whiskey, just overall, as a whiskey.
1.25. Oh.
Trying to think what you
not getting better.
What you would like, you know, the whiskey fix, which is 2 parts whiskey, 1 part.
I thought you had like some way to fix this.
Well, that's why they call it this, because it's 2 parts whiskey, 1 part simple syrup, 1 part lemon juice, served over crushed ice. So you can even turn shit whiskey into something pretty decent. And so this would require a whiskey fix for me.
Okay, so 2.05. There you go.
I'm gonna go 1.75.
Oh man,
as a whiskey.
Okay.
So you would require a fix, and I don't think you should drink this straight up.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Now it's shelving, Tony.
This is a bottom.
Through. This is not delightful. I'm sorry.
Tell me more about that golf course.
Apparently, a little bit of it's in Tennessee, a little bit of it's in Kentucky. And Tony, you did note before we got into this, didn't say much about the whiskey.
Well, there's not a lot to say.
I think we've said it. Now the secret six, because this is bottom shelf. Secret six question: when this bottle runs empty, will I seek another one? No, I'm not going to. I spent about
this one.
50, 60 bucks for the football novelty. I thought, surely, Tony, a celebrity is going to put their name on a product. Surely they would not. Here, add that to the pour out well. Surely they would, but then I remembered Conor McGregor Proper 12 is a thing. So yeah, unfortunately, this is kind of on level with Proper 12 in terms of celebrity whiskeys. I to thine own self be true. I was wanting it to be good. Okay.
Well, it's not.
It's definitively not. There's just no way around that. So no, I will not be seeking this bottle again.
Good. Glad to hear it. Couldn't be happier to hear that.
So folks,
nor will I.
I'm known to say
There's a reason I wasn't looking forward to this one.
Yeah. All that being said, we did it, and now it's done, and now we ain't got to do it again. Thank you for being here at the K.O.E. Nation for this honest review of Sweetens Cove, and it was anything but. God bless every last one of you. Yeah. I hope all of you make it back here to the K.O.E. Nation happy, healthy, much the wiser. God bless. Travel well. Tony G, take it away. Yuck.
Yeah. Gross. Don't buy this. Thanks for coming. That sucked more than I thought it would.
Like a lot. That was kind of like that. That was actually kind of unto itself how bad it sucked. Yes. So that was Tony's review of Sweetens Cove. And now, any of you subscribers, that bottle is at Tony's house. I made sure to leave it there. So that special experience of Sweetens Cove can be experienced by him again and again and again. It is a gift that keeps on giving, folks. So whenever you want to give him a shot, make sure it's Sweetens Cove. Now, folks, we're going to get into something that I've been meaning to get into. Bandit so rudely interrupted, but let's see. Let's get it all perfectly lined up here. I'm giving you shit, Bandit. I'm giving you shit. God bless. Let's see. What do we got here? It looks like a wine label. Very true. Very true. Now, what we're going to get into is a little bit of oat whiskey here. But yeah, you're right about the Sweetens Cove. It does kind of look like wine mom label, doesn't it? When you put it like that, sheesh, man. God almighty. Now, hang on one moment. We are missing a few of the beautiful layouts of Extreme where it has my beautiful face, but not just that. Also, I'm my goodness. I mean, I'm missing some of the beautiful graphics of Extreme. So let's see what we can do about that. I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer. No, I don't want any of that crap. But so, folks, we're going to get into a review here very momentarily. I'm like, where is my beautiful banners of Extreme? I need all that beautiful banner of extremeness. I mean, that can do, but now we're going to have to make do, it looks like, folks. So let's get it rocking and rolling. Folks, you have indeed arrived here at the K.O.E. Nation for this long time coming spirits review of Old Elk 10-year wheat whiskey. Folks, I am your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes you the podcast cower, the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the lord of the Scottish Highlands. One handsome man, if I do say so myself. And we are here to get into this very, very special product indeed. Now, you can, of course, find me at K.O.E Nation on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, -X, depending on your political persuasion. But tonight, we're getting into this very special little product. What this is Old Elk Straight Wheat Whiskey, 55% alcohol by volume, 110 proof, aged 10 years. Now, I got to say, this is one that I thoroughly enjoy. With as much as I've gotten into it, this is a delightful treat of a drink. Now, it's got some information on the back, but that calls for the glasses of extreme. So it says on the back, Old Elk's 10-year straight wheat whiskey is crafted with 4 decades of experience, passion, and zero compromises. Our master distiller, Greg Metz, called upon a lifetime of experience producing the finest whiskeys in the world and applied that expertise to the straight wheat whiskey now held in this bottle. 10 years of aging maximizes the rich and refined attributes of soft red winter wheat and draws out the complexities and subtleties that only time can develop. We hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy. Or sip back. Oh, see what you did there. So, Old Elk 10-year wheat whiskey. Now, it doesn't give you the exact mash bill, but I happen to have a bottle of straight wheat whiskey, and it says here it's 95% winter wheat and 5% malted barley. So I'm assuming that they're probably pretty close. Maybe I'm a bit off, but I'm betting they're more than a bit close. So, without further ado, let's take up this 10-year Old Elk wheat whiskey. Okay. Light caramel, very light red fruit, hint of apple. You get that a lot with wheat. You're going to get a lot of very weak esters because the thing is, wheat by itself, some people consider it fairly tame. But when it's mixed with bourbons, they really bring out a lot of rich flavor. But this one, aged 10 years, is actually quite exquisite. So, Sanjava. You get a little bit of that woody, kind of like a peppery strawberry on the back of your palate, but not too intrusive, very, very easy and approachable. Yeah, this is excellent. Now, this is kind of rare stuff, and we're going to get into that here real shortly. We're going to grade this as on a couple of 5-star scales. For those who don't know, we grade everything 5 stars, meaning you have to have it before you shuffle off this mortal coil. 0 meaning pass it on by. The K.O.E Nation has advised you well. So we're going to grade this as a wheat whiskey, as a cask-aged spirit. It's shelving, and for those new to the show, the secret 5th question. So, as a wheat whiskey, this is excellent. This is about as good as a wheat whiskey gets, in my opinion. You know, your mileage may vary, but I thoroughly enjoy this. So I'm going to give this as a wheat whiskey 4.75 as a wheat whiskey. If you're looking for just the pinnacle of what you can get out of wheat, this is getting pretty close to that. Now, as a whiskey, I'm going to be a lot less generous here because that's a wide, wide world of sports. We're talking bourbons, scotches, you name it. You can do some things with this. You could even cocktail with it. This would go great with a Barks root beer. This would go great with like a Spritzer cherry cola. Ooh. Like any of those really like very well done artisanal sodas. Yeah, this would go great with. I'm going to go 375 as a whiskey because, again, this is kind of an odd niche, but it's excellent for what it is and approachable and usable. But a lot of people are going to be like, wait, wheat? What are you talking about? Now we move on to cask aged spirits. This actually spices up wheat a little bit, which some folks think is admittedly boring. So I think I'm going to go 375 as a cask aged spirit, which I am notoriously ungenerous in that particular category. So I got to give some credit there. Now, shelving. This is where it gets interesting. Okay, this is to me a top shelf. If Tony was here, I know he'd say this is middle shelf. He would not be as impressed. I personally like this. Now, this is what's kind of weird about wheat whiskey. If you line up 10 people with 10 different wheat whiskeys, they're going to not like 8 of them. 2 of them are going to be their favorite whiskey in the universe. That's the weird thing about wheat whiskeys is you're not going to like most of them, but the few you like, you're going to love. And so it's a very odd factor. So this was one of them that I really zeroed in on and really enjoyed. So this would be top shelf for me, but your mileage may vary. Now, would I seek another one when this runs empty? That's the weird part. This was over $120. That's good, but I don't know if I would seek this bottle out again until I've tried a few other things. So I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'm not going to refill this bottle or get a new one when this one runs empty just because if this bottle was like $80, you'd be a little closer. But if I can get it on sale for that price, yeah. But at their current asking, I don't think I will. So, folks, that is this very honest review, and I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy every drop of this, but I might not get another one. I don't know. I know that's a very strange answer for how impressed I am, but to thine own self be true. So, folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, that was this review of Old Elk 10 Years Straight Wheat Whiskey. Raise a glass to yourselves. God bless every last one of you. I hope all of you make it back here to the K.O.E Nation happy, healthy, much the wiser. God bless all y'all. Travel well. It's actually not too bad. And thank you, Bandit. Thank you. Thank you. Freaking Philosopher King over here. Now, Bandit, I did promise some funny videos. And so, okay. This one, I hope you're going to enjoy this one. Because I consider, nobody's that fucking bold. No, I'm not going to do anything like that. Right. Like, no. There's just some things you just walk away from, Bandit. Nope, not even going to think about that. Like if it was a full-time job, but no, this is just a hobby. But thank you for considering. But no, here's the thing: like these wheat whiskeys, I've been collecting them over 3 years. So we just filmed the wheat whiskey tournament, and so like, that was 3 years of bit by bit collecting, and now I've got a surplus of drinking whiskey, if you will. I'm going to get reviews out of it. Going to get a couple more versus matchups, one-on-ones. I'm going to get a lot of content out of these bottles before they're gone. And so that's kind of the plan. I always joke with Tony. It's like, drinking is not about fun. No, sir. Drinking is about recording it. Tony's like, oh, yeah, that's right, Phil. Whiskey is work. Yeah, whiskey is not about fun. But speaking of fun, this was one that me, Tony, and Chicken, when we got together, this accidentally became one of the funniest videos we ever did. And it's still one of my favorites. And like, you never know, like I'm just glad we were filming for this because we just dogged on Tony so hard at one point. It became so fucking funny. So we're going to get into that, and then we'll get into aliens and ghosts and spirits and all that kind of stuff here a little later. So, but let's get in. I promised you something funny, so we're getting into it. Rock and roll. Welcome, one and all, to the K.O.E Nation for a very special 32 Rye Whiskey Tournament Whiskey Review. Today, we are reviewing a very special one. The first rye whiskey store pick in our state's history, as far as I know. I've said this several times and nobody's corrected me. So we will see if Spirit World's advertisements are.
Spirit World, Tommy.
Yes.
Can I be the first one to dispute it?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I saw Hy-Vee and Lincoln did a store pick at Templeton.
Oh, when was this?
Like,
Because I picked this bottle up like a year ago.
Yeah, you've been.
it was
sipping
around
for
the
a
same
while.
time, so maybe it was
Oh,
close. It's
let
close.
Let us know in the
Yeah.
comments if you know. But this one is from Spirit World. I've been hanging on to this one for
Spirit World,
more than a minute. But yeah, Rye Personal Selection, Woodford Reserve Rye Personal Selection is crafted from a small batch of barrels approved by our master distiller. The unique character of each Rye Personal Selection showcases the art of batching barrels together based on their individual profiles can produce a wide range of flavor presentations. Interesting. So,
What's the ABV?
the ABV on this is 45.2. So
Okay.
90.4 proof. The selection date for this was, oh wow, so I've been hanging on to this for a minute. 10/28/2020. So
Really?
so yeah, I've been hanging on to this for apparently a minute or two. Because
Really?
I remember everybody was all masked up when I bought this in the store. So
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
so oh goodness gracious.
With Woodford, like the standard Woodford, which I'm assuming this would be comparable to, because that double oaked process that they use just changes the whiskey so dramatically. Like comparing standard Woodford to Woodford double oak, huge leap in terms of flavor. So I assume this is going to be very, very smooth, very, very drinkable, especially for a rye. I have high hopes for this in terms of quality. Woodford is a very
I've had ups and downs with Woodford. Like you said, the double oak, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a go-to. It's a have to have.
it is super
But
good.
Some of the other opening lines are just disappointing.
My
Even their
thing-
Master Distiller series, I thought was just horribly disappointing.
See, and with standard Woodford, like I've had it at your place, I've never picked up a bottle of standard Woodford bourbon because you've always had a bottle of it. You use it as a mixer. It's very simple. It's very drinkable. The best I've ever had was at a bar in Nashville. I don't know if it's just because it's so close to Kentucky. Super smooth though.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Not bad.
Not bad. We've had worse, that's for damn sure.
So yeah, I've never had a bad Woodford.
And for those who have not seen, and for those who do remember, the the Sweet 16 Bourbon Tournament, the winner was Woodford Reserve Double Oak Store Pick from Wine, Beer, and Spirits. Now, this is from Spirit World in Omaha, Nebraska. Special shout out to all them.
Great place.
They're known for a bit spicier store picks.
Okay.
So that's just.
Well-
And also, one of my personal favorite sippers is a store pick from there, the George Dickel 9-year.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just,
That's right.
just good sipper,
Very high scale
Now,
liquor store.
gentlemen.
Let's
see what we got.
It's really pleasant, but there's a undeniable.
Rye with a little more floral, but it's
There's
not
something on the end.
offensive like
What
Sazerac.
is that on the end?
Almost get like a butter undertone.
I was about to say something sweet
Oh,
and
God,
thick,
I couldn't-
oily, chocolatey, not quite chocolate, but
Oh man.
like a very thick buttery or oil of some kind.
Oil or salt or butter, like
Olive oil.
maybe.
I don't want to ruin it for you, but I just figured out what the nose is on the very end. It's a nice nose, but there's a finish on the nose.
Well, but we'll get to that after
I
we
don't
give
want
it
to
a,
ruin it for
let's
you.
give it a flavor.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Okay. A cinnamon toast crunch cereal. I like that.
I could.
That's good.
Like for me, it's
Oh, yeah.
I get cinnamon.
I get the cinnamon. It's not
It's more
super
like a
sweet.
cinnamon stick.
Mhm.
Like if you know the cinnamon sticks that people just leave in their house to like make
Oh,
it smell.
I like that a lot.
Interesting.
I'm gonna go back to the nose now because it's not nearly as much there. Again,
There is a thick something on the end of it. What are you picking up, T?
whatever the material is in a diaper. And I'm not kidding. I'm not. This is not meant as an insult. But when it gets wet, whatever it is that soaks up the liquid.
Keep in mind he's got 4 kids, all under the age of 6.
Yeah. So I'm
So-
still quite familiar with diapers.
I'm trying to
Yeah, I'm
enjoy
not
my
getting-
drink here,
That's
Tony.
fine. I
I'm
know
not
that
getting that at all.
it's a very
Like,
specific. This is not meant as an insult, but obviously they put something in a
it's
diaper to soak
gonna
up
be
liquid.
taken as one.
No, because what they put in a diaper to soak up the liquid
How is
is
it
not going
supposed to be taken?
It's
Well,
like
They put that
this
in there as a
smells
good
like an
smell.
old gas station bathroom.
No,
like
they put it in there to cancel
It's a
out.
urinal cake.
It's meant to smell good as opposed to the piss.
It's
So-
a baby urinal cake. Okay.
Right? Okay. Basically,
okay.
it's meant to smell good. Does a urinal cake smell
So,
bad? No.
What we've established is Tony
Maybe
does
somebody
not.
wanna
shits
drink
on
it?
All right, Tony.
Not necessarily because I know what goes on it.
What we've established, Tony, is you're not a fan of the nose.
No, I
Um,
didn't say that. I'm just saying it's the same type of.
In so many words. Mostly
You're
diaper.
misquoting. Do not spread misinformation.
Oh gosh. Damn it. Now Neil Young isn't going to want to play his songs on K.O.E. Nation anymore. Not like he was
I
like
know.
really lining up
This
to do
one.
that anyways, but damn it.
This one, this one's a dark horse for me. I'm actually quite surprised.
It's pretty decent.
I expect it to be a little less flavorful. I'm a little shocked. I really like this.
Okay. Outside of the double oak, this is the best Woodford I think I've had.
I'm gonna agree. Even the standard double oak, not as good as a store pick because it's not as deep, is good. Like the wheat,
Yep.
drinkable, standard.
I
drinkable.
haven't had the wheat yet.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
a big fan of the wheat,
this is
but
really
it's just like an everyday drinker or mixer.
I'm
It's
actually
not like
upset
special
now
occasion by any means.
that this is a 2-year-old store pick because now I can't get a hold of it. I know that sucks. This is really
Well,
good.
it was picked in October of 2020, so I think
Okay.
I picked it up in like early 2021.
I hope
So
I hope they come out with another one because I would.
this
definitely do that.
is
This is good.
definitely
Very good.
unique.
Tough part.
Despite all of Tony's
I'm not
glowing
shitting on the
reviews.
nose. I'm
No,
telling
you're
you.
not. You're pissing on it.
No, the kid is pissing on it. God, you're taking me out of
all
context.
right. Now, enough of the bathroom talk when it comes to whiskey.
You're gonna have to put an apology video up on YouTube now.
Well, maybe if you wouldn't misquote me.
Yeah, the evil. So now we move on to the really hard part, and that's not just getting through Tony G's praise. The really hard part.
Hey, if
is-
I want to be a dick, I can be a dick. All
We
right, look
know,
at
just-
anything Heaven Hill.
I was about to say,
Keep it in
just
your
go
diaper.
watch his Pikes. So,
Don't make
moving
me
on to
put
the
my
goddamn
dirty diaper
grading.
in your trash can.
God damn it, moving on to
Under
the
my
grading.
couch. Like my
Okay.
brother's ex-wife did.
All right,
We got a
got some
blowout.
editing to do.
No, you
So,
don't.
moving on to
This
the
all stays in.
Keep it in.
all the grading now. Moving on to the grading.
The hard
Can-
part.
Can,
Let's
can,
do it.
Can,
Let's
can
do
we
it.
grade? Or
Let's
do we,
grade.
do we
Let's
got
grade.
some more diaper talk we got to get out?
Nope,
On a
nope.
dirty
Get it.
diaper scale, I get
God damn it. So, for those who don't know, we grade on a 5-star scale. This is just A+ content. 5-star meaning you have to have it before you shuffle off this mortal coil. 0 meaning pass it on by. The K.O.E. Nation has advised you well. We're going to grade this on a few 5-star scales. We're going to grade it on this many scales. As a rye whiskey, as a whiskey, as a cask-aged spirit, it's shelving, and for those new to the show, the secret fifth
It
question.
has nothing to do with diapers.
I
Promise.
didn't even say
So
I
that's a
never meant to
rye.
be insulting.
I don't know what you meant it then. Like,
What they put in a diaper to cover up the smell.
all right,
of
all
piss.
right.
Tony, that is slim praise. I'm just going to tell you that.
no matter how you try to dress it up. It's like, dude, this smells like the best outhouse I've ever been in my life.
No, that's totally different.
It's pretty close.
It's
So,
not even
anyways,
close.
God damn, Tony's just like, we will talk about diapers come hell or high water.
I'm not letting this go.
I'm not crazy, God damn it. Like,
I'm not.
a little.
Okay, yeah, everybody's a little crazy.
So,
And you know what I'm really crazy over? I'm crazy over this rye.
A+ segue. So, as a rye whiskey on a 5-star scale, how are you going to grade this, gentlemen? Chicken, save us.
I think this is a solid rye whiskey. I don't think it's like the greatest of the greats. As I've let it sit here for a little bit, I'm still picking up some of the sweetness in there. It just lingers, and it is very fine. I'm curious to see how it'll go in the blinds when we get down the road. But I think this is going to stack up well in round 1. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to give it 3.5.
3.5 stars is a rye whiskey. Tony G?
I'm going 4 as a rye. This one really surprised me. I love the cinnamon flavor. It's so smooth. Again, I had to get a little bit more because this is really, really nice. Woodford makes an amazing store pick. They just do. And in terms of rye, this one shocked me. I thought this was going to be
really good stuff.
Middle of the road, but it's...
I thought this was going to be
Top
a
end.
lot more grassy, floral, maybe a little minty, but no, none of that here. This is just cinnamon sweet and very drinkable. Love it. Maybe not your typical rye, but ryes can be kind of all over the place, and this one really hits for me.
Yeah, I think the mint is there. It's just so subtle.
Yeah.
Like I can
not
still taste it,
overwhelming.
but it doesn't bother you like some others
I'm
do.
going to have to agree with 4 stars. I think that's right where it sits. Excellent
I like
rye whiskey, and only a slight room for improvement. Maybe a rye whiskey double oak would
God,
like chicken's like.
well, that wouldn't have any diaper smell at all.
So moving right on to the whiskey. God damn you, T. So moving right on to the whiskey on a 5-star scale, on a whiskey scale. So, Tony, as a whiskey,
As a whiskey, it's a store pick. Obviously, it's not something we're going to just come by in any store. You're not going to find this again unless they've got another few barrels of this sitting over at the distillery ready to ship on back to Omaha. This isn't something you're going to come by. That shouldn't hurt it, but it's not something you can easily replicate. So if you find something like this, cherish it if you like it. But I can understand why this would be very niche for someone. So while this really, really appeals to me personally, I don't think it would appeal to just anybody. So I will say it's probably a 3.5 on the whiskey scale.
chicken.
The fact that the diaper talk's still going on is going to knock it down.
I didn't even
No,
mention it. God. It's like dicks.
No,
You want me to get a diaper?
I love it. I love it as a whiskey more than I do a rye, honestly.
Really?
I think 3.75 is a. I'll break the scale. Let's go 3.8 as a whiskey. Easy mixer, easy quick drinker. I honestly think you could do that on the rocks.
Oh
and,
yeah,
it'd be
anything you could do with a standard whiskey.
yeah. I think this
you
is
could cocktail that.
this is a really in the sweetness of it.
Some ryes don't go good on the rocks.
Well, I think
I
this
think
one
this one
will.
would.
This one might.
That's why
Yeah, break the scale 3.8.
I'm gonna disagree with you, but only just. I'm gonna go 4 stars as a whiskey for all the reasons you just said. Now, as a cask aged spirit, chicken.
That's a big competition. A lot
Yeah.
of stuff to go in
I was
there.
about to say that's a wide world of sports. even
As a
including
rye, I gave
cognacs
it
and
a
armagnacs.
yeah. I'll go 3.25 because I think I'm just thinking rye competition. I know a lot. Whiskey competition. There's a lot to go
Yeah.
against. I want to be fair, but I think 3.25 puts it in a good pecking order. Yeah, I don't think that's offensive to say.
I'm trying to.
Less offensive than what Tony's been fucking saying.
I was going to be very praiseworthy, but I mean, if you just want to keep misquoting,
Being a
Dude,
jerk about it.
what if you had to guess how old?
Pampers.
I'm gonna guess about 4 years, so just out of diapers.
I I would hope you're at. Come on now. That's rude.
So, how many stars would you give this team?
I'm trying to be fair. Again, I really, really like this. If we're gonna guess about 2 to 4 years, we're gonna say
Solid 3T.
no. I'm gonna go 3.5. I'm gonna go 3.5.
Okay.
I'm gonna disagree with you both, but only just, and give this 3.75 as a Cascade Spirit. I wanted to give it 4,
almost did,
but I couldn't quite get there. So I'm gonna go 3.75 on this
That's
because I'm impressed with this. I enjoy it, but yeah, Cascade, it's a wide world of sports out there. Now, shelving. This is probably the toughest question, honestly.
It sucks. My middle shelf's really, really full, but I would try to squeeze it in there.
I agree. Middle.
Yeah, it would be middle. Now, for those new to the show, the secret 5th question. How absorbent would this be if you poured it into a deck?
I'll give it a 2 on absorption. It's not exactly aerodynamic. The cork alone would pick up some of the. I'm just saying, it's a good sized cork. It might pick up some.
Okay. The real secret 5th question is when this bottle runs empty, will I seek another one? I think I paid about $60-$70 for this.
It's a lot for a store pick rye.
Yeah.
But you got a good one.
Even if I just found the straight rye or another store pick, after sampling this,
Yeah.
I think I would pull the trigger for 50.
That's my thing. I'm like, it is.
I think it's worth it.
Oh, yeah.
You want to see a store pick be about
I see
50
people
to
spend
60.
like $70-$80 secondary for Pikesville. Like I'd spend $60 on this.
So, yeah, I imagine the standard rye is probably quite enjoyable. Like, it's kind of like Woodford Double Oak versus their store pick.
Yeah.
The store pick turns it up to 11, but it's not like the regular Double Oak wasn't at 8 or 9 itself anyway.
right.
So,
I'm going to be a lot more inclined to turn down a Woodford rye store pick now, even at $70. I'll tell you that. But yeah, even a store pick, you kind of want to be like 50 to 60 range. So it's really going to depend, especially like a maker's mark. At least they put it on the front. They're telling you what you're going to get in terms of flavor profile. So, if you can give me that information, the price is fair, and I've had something comparable from your line, then I'm definitely going to pick it up. I would be hard pressed to turn something like this away now.
and same here. Now, I will never be able to find this particular bottle again, but yes, I will probably spring on a Woodford Reserve rye store pick if I really like the store and I've liked their previous store picks. You can bet your ass I'm going to jump on it. So, all right. Well,
Don't wet yourself. It's almost
you know,
over.
don't worry. I'm wearing multi-layered protection, absorbent even, as I'm known to say around here. All that being said, thank you for joining us for this very special review of Woodford Reserve Spirit World Rye Whiskey Store Pick, a review that I'm sure Woodford Reserve is incredibly happy about.
I was nothing.
We're their favorite podcasters.
I was nothing but congratulatory and praiseworthy.
Yes, that's what it was.
So, folks, thank you for being here.
That way.
Thank you for joining us. Raise a glass to yourselves. I hope all of you make it back here happy, healthy, dry, and much the wiser. Folks, God bless every last one of you. Tony Chicken, take it away.
As always, appreciate you, folks. Love you. Stay dry.
Stay dry.
Way! Got a dad joke in there at the end. Well done. God bless, folks.
Poopy.
Diaper.
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 Jesus Christ.
Okay.
The old format. How we doing, all you beautiful people out there? There we go. Now I got my little name tag back. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? So how y'all doing, folks? All of you beautiful people within the sound of my voice. You know, we're gonna get into spirits. We're gonna get into aliens and such in a little bit. But before we do, I'm gonna do something else because Tony hates it when I do reviews on a live stream. But you know what, Tony, you're not here right now. Now are you? Do y'all see Tony?
But we are going to get into something Tony related here a little later when we start talking about the spirits and such. But without further ado, yes, folks, you have indeed arrived here at the KOE Nation for this review of Law's Bonded Wheat Whiskey. Yes, folks, batch number 3 of Law's Whiskey House Centennial Straight Wheat Whiskey, aged 5 years. Folks, I am your King of Extreme Phil, KOE, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower, the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the lord of the Scottish Highlands. One handsome man, if I do say so myself. You can, of course, find me at KOE Nation on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter-X, depending on your political persuasion as well, folks. And I am looking forward to getting into this particular spirit with you. So, Law's Wheat Whiskey. When I started the Wheat Whiskey tournament, I knew I had to have some Laws in there, and by Job, I was able to get it. Now, this calls, of course, for the glasses. Extreme. On the back, it reads, made from a single season's harvest of Centennial, the heirloom spring soft white varietal grown for us in the San Luis Valley. This is the first wheat whiskey to be bottled in bond in Colorado, which fittingly is known as a Centennial state. Unlike commercialized wheat grown nearly everywhere today, with the pre-industrial Centennial grain, we are able to distill and ferment a spectrum of diverse flavors, aromas of apple orchard, orange blossoms, lilacs, and a palate highlighted by marmalade, wild strawberries, and honey, all against the backdrop of bright, earthy minerals from Colorado's high country terroir. Distilled, aged, and bottled by Law's Whiskey House, Acoma Street, Denver, Colorado. So, Colorado's own wheat whiskey. Now, as a Nebraskan, I am well aware that Colorado is one of the best kept secrets of America. Like, if you don't know about America and you haven't seen Colorado, like if you're a foreigner coming here, like when people say, what should they see? A lot of people say, oh, go look New York. No. Rocky Mountain National Park. That, like, things like that. And so this is wheat whiskey from the great state of Colorado, which I have a lot of love for. So let's try some of their delicious 5-year bonded wheat whiskey, which that's rare. A bonded wheat whiskey. Like, find me 10 of those. That's okay. I'll wait. Trust me, in my wheat whiskey tournament searching, it's a very small market. It's a very small niche of folks that are dedicated to that. So without further ado, let's take it up to the nose. Gotta be honest, like a very soft green apple, but very soft. The nose is very muted for 100 proof. Like, you're definitely not getting that on the nose at all. I mean, like 50% alcohol by volume, 100 proof. Like, you're hiding the ethanol very well. Small bit of wood. I know it's oak, but it's not giving me that impression. Like, it's going to sound very weird and specific, but if you've ever used mulberry wood as firewood, that's the smell I'm getting from the barrel imparting its wood flavor, which is very interesting. So, you know what? Let's get right into it. Sanjava. That's very grain forward. Very grain forward. You get a bit of wood on the back, but the front is very grain heavy. I'm just going to be honest with you, folks. To thine own self be true. So it's a very grain heavy whiskey. Interesting. Interesting. Wow. All right. Okay, there's an oiliness in your second drink. You get that. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to get into the very hard part, the grading. For those who don't know, we grade on a 5-star scale. 5 meaning you have to have it before you shuffle off this mortal coil. 0 meaning pass it on by. The K.O.E Nation has advised you well. We're going to grade this as a wheat whiskey. We're going to grade this as a whiskey, as a cask-aged spirit. It's shelving. And for those new to the show, the secret 5th question. So, as a wheat whiskey, I'm gonna, on a 5-star scale, I'm gonna say this is a 2.75 as a wheat whiskey. It's above midpoint. It's definitely like it expresses wheat. As a whiskey, I'm gonna give it just exactly 2.5. It's right in the middle. You could mix this with just about anything. You could mix any other whiskey. And that's how I would recommend doing this because there is just that harshness on your palate. It gets better with every drink, but that first one it has a bit of a hit. There's a sort of a bitterness on the back of your tongue. So yeah, I'm sticking with that. As a cask aged spirit, I'm going to be a little more generous here. I'm going to give it 3 stars as a cask aged spirit because everything that you're getting imparted here is from its casking. Because I've tried regular Law's non-bonded wheat whiskey, and there is definitely a difference. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with 3 stars as a cask aged spirit, rather. Now we're gonna move on to the shelving. This is gonna be either my middle or bottom shelf, truth be told. And the secret 5th question, I actually can't remember what I paid for this USD, so I'm going to put right here the average MSRP. I look at that. Why, that is quite reasonable. And I'm going to be honest, will I replace this bottle when this runs empty? That is the secret 5th question. The answer to that, no, I don't believe I will. I think I'm going to look at what else Laws has to offer. I want to try their 4-grain bourbon. I want to try a couple of their other releases before I would come back to this. So my answer for now is going to be no, I'm not going to. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. Your mileage may vary. But folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us for this review of Law's Wheat Whiskey Bonded Edition. I am your King of Extreme, Phil K.O.E, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower. You can, of course, find me at K.O.E Nation on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter-X as well. God bless every last one of you. Raise a glass to yourselves. I hope all of you make it back here to the K.O.E Nation. Happy, healthy, much the wiser. Travel well, folks. All righty. That's 2 down from the 20 wheat whiskeys. Woo! All right. Now, folks, lovely. Now, we're going to get into something interesting here. This is segues into an interview I did with Tony a while ago, because Tony's also a ghost hunter, if you don't know. And we did a fascinating interview with him. But Tucker Carlson was on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you've seen this, and it's really something you need to check out. Like, of course, after this show, where Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan start talking about aliens. And it's like Tucker Carlson's very nonchalant about it. Like he's known about this shit for years. And he's just like, now I am not under contract. I can talk about it. So fuck it. Yeah, there's these things, these objects, these supernatural objects that are doing things. They're killing actual American soldiers. because the VA is going through lawsuits about it right now as we speak. So this is a real thing. It's not just something I'm making up. And I think we need to, and like he's just talking very nonchalantly about it, like it's just any old thing. But then he drops a bomb where he says he doesn't think it's, he doesn't think that it's aliens from another planet, because that was Joe Rogan's lens. We're like, well, you know, just like things with like advanced technology and stuff. And Tucker goes, well, yeah, the lens that you're looking at through is science fiction. That's how you're trying to understand it. The reality is he thinks that they're spiritual beings, which, boy, howdy, that's the implications of that. Like, now, a lot of us knew this for a long time, but Tucker's interview really gives some very real impetus to it. And the spiritual and ghosts and all of that, or demons, if you will. Demons, even. Now, I've done a lot of research into that, and I'm going to get into that into Sunday night Bible study as to my research into demons. So, and how you can best ward that off in your life. Now, the TRDL, like if you're not going to be here on Sunday, the first chapter of the Gospel of John, read that a lot. Okay, like that's the if I don't have a lot of time with you, but we're shifting now. So Tucker talks about it's spiritual. Joe keeps trying to bring it back to extraterrestrial, and there's this really fascinating moment where Joe's like, you know, if like our technology gets good enough, man, like, you know, humanity becomes like gods, man. And Tucker just like laughs, like, yeah, I mean, like, sure, it might seem like it compared to us, but it's like, you know, a plow can now do the work of like 100 people with, you know, a hoe, yeah, that as a garden tool. So yeah, that's just, you know, our technology improving things, but that doesn't make us actual gods. That doesn't make us outside the rules of physics and nature. And it was a fascinating discussion, but it really reminded me of my discussion with Tony G about ostensibly a lot of the same stuff. We get into other dimensions. We get into folklore around Nebraska and Colorado, even, you know, it ties in to Law's Wheat Whiskey here. We start talking about some of the folklore of Colorado. It's a deep conversation, and I'm actually looking forward to sharing this with you. And again, if you have any questions or any comments about the aliens or what you think about all this, let me know, because it's always fun. But without further ado, let's get right into this one, folks. I am your King of Extreme, Phil, K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes you the podcast hour. You can, of course, find me right here at Big Buckin' Empire on YouTube and Facebook, Hazard Analysis on YouTube, and, of course, K.O.E. Nation on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. And I am joined this evening by my indomitable broadcast partner, the one, the only,
the 5, 10, 15-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, the non-copper friendly, the quadruple distilled, the non-chill filtered, Tony fucking G. Find me on TikTok /Tony the Rod, at Tony the Rod on the TikTok. Yeah, that's pretty much that. And we're starting out this pre-recorded, God forbid, holy shit. Yeah, just throw the babies in the air, cancel your credit cards, default on your mortgage, and just cry yourself to sleep. Recorded episode of.
I don't know if you should do all those things.
No, just do, because apparently that's the only thing you can do when we are not live, is just cry about it and cry more.
I mean, I get it. Your life is tumult and chaos without live interaction with us, but
here we are anyway for the Dog and Chicken Show, and we are literally here, Phil and Tony G, residents of Nebraska, at the Chicken Coop, which resides in South Dakota. Yep. And do you see fucking chicken of the chicken? No, he's outside being a cunt.
Tony, you and I are denizens of the great state of Nebraska,
yes.
And also I want to tie this in as a twofer. You also are the head of the GRIP Paranormal Investigation Group. Is this correct?
I am, yes.
Yes. Now, I don't know how things are ranked in that particular world, but you seem to be the main driving force of GRIP Paranormal.
Yes, that's fair.
Now, as you know, as residents of Nebraska, I have been trying to get us on a hunt for the fabled salt witch of Nebraska.
Right.
So, if I may, I want to read
Okay.
real quick here just the very short account. It's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. It's
Okay.
6 paragraphs.
And as you bring it up, I not just a week ago did a 5-minute guest spot on a podcast called Meet the Elite Podcast. You can catch my 5-minute little episode on, I believe, Spotify. It's never really heard of it, never knew of it, but they contacted me and said, "Hey, come do a little spot on our show, Meet the Elite Podcast. Check it out on Spotify." Tony G.
Will do.
I think it's on there now.
Moving on up in the world, T. Oh, oopsie daisies.
And then there's that.
Moving on up in the world, T. So, the reason I bring this up is because I would really like to get into that sometime because it fascinates me.
Right.
Not even because I particularly think we're going to find anything, but just because this is such an interesting piece of Native American lore that it needs to be documented and to a much greater extent. Because this, what I'm about to read to you folks, is the only documentation.
I want to specify that, that there's the distinct difference right out of the gate is we're not talking about, holy shit, my house is terrifying me. This is Native American lore.
Yes.
There's a distinct difference.
Well, let me get into this.
All right.
The Salt Witch of the Nebraska Plains by Charles N. Skinner. In 1896, a pillar of snowy salt once stood on the Nebraska plain, about 40 miles above the point where the Saline River flows into the Platte River, and white men used to hear of it as the Salt Witch. An Indian native tribe, was for a long time quartered at the junction of the river. It's a chief, a man of blood and muscle in whom his people gloried, but so fierce withal that nobody made a companion of him except his wife, who alone could check his tigress rage. In truth, he loved her so well that on her death he became a recluse and shut himself within a lodge, refusing to see anybody. This mood endured with him so long that mutterings were heard in the tribe, and there was talk of choosing another chief. Some of this talk he must have heard, for one morning he emerged in war dress, and without a word to anyone strode across the plains to the westward. On returning a full month later, he was more communicative and had something unusual to relate. He also provided his prowess by brandishing a belt of fresh scalps before the eyes of his warriors. He had also brought a lump of salt. He told them that after traveling far over the prairie, he had thrown himself on the earth to sleep when he was aroused by a wailing sound close by. Then, in the light of a new moon, he saw a hideous old woman brandishing a tomahawk over the head of a younger one who was kneeling, begging for mercy and trying to shake off the grip from her throat. The sight of the woman 40 miles from the village surprised the chief that he ran toward them. The young woman made a desperate effort to free herself, but in vain, as it seemed, for the hag wound her left hand in her hair, while the other she raised an axe and was about to strike. At that moment, the chief gained a view of the face of the younger woman. It was that of his dead wife. With a snarl of wrath, he leapt upon the hag and buried his own hatchet in her brain. But before he could catch his wife in his arms, the earth had opened and both women disappeared. But a pillar of salt stood where he had seen this thing. For years, the natives maintained that the column was under the custody of the Salt Witch, and when they went there to gather salt, they would beat the ground with their clubs, believing that each blow fell upon her person and kept her from working other evils. By Charles N. Skinner, 1896, compiled and edited by Keith Weiser, Legends of America, updated June 2021. And so what I'm trying to find is a pillar of salt once stood on the Nebraska plain about 40 miles above the point where the Saline River flows into the Platte River. Now, that point, Tony, as I've looked up now, for at least about 70 years, there hasn't been a river called the Saline River.
Okay.
Like I try to keep looking it up. There's different accounts. And so
Granted.
luckily my dad actually pointed out on the map, okay, from everything you're describing here and from anything I remember when I was a kid, this is probably your Saline River. And he pointed out to me the actual river that's probably the old Saline River.
Which is it?
I can't remember the name right now.
Oh.
Okay, like he actually marked it out on a map, so all I gotta
Okay.
do is go find that map again.
Okay.
So it's not a big deal. Like again, we're having fun here in the evening, but like, so my question to you is this something that interests you, and why or why not? Both answers equally fascinate me.
Yeah, when you're talking about history, like that's essentially like that's the column of paranormal investigation, because anytime you want to talk about something that's strange, unexplainable, you have to first delve into the history of it, because if you don't delve into the history of it, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're basically just you're spooking yourself in a dark room. And by that, I mean you're doing yourself a disservice by getting yourself hyped up and scaring yourself for no other reason than the thrill of it. That's why you go see a scary movie. You watch a scary movie on Netflix. If you actually want to learn something and experience something, then you have to first delve into the history of it. You have to understand the lore of it. So in an instance like this, when you're talking about history, and let's be frank, a lot of folklore, which is what this is, because you can't specifically point to it on a map and find it specifically by getting directions. You have to make assumptions. You have to follow the lore. You have to search for it, in essence. So it's a different aspect of the field, but it's still interesting nonetheless. So there's a lot of folklore, regardless of what state you reside in. Like Nebraska has a lot, and a lot of it's bullshit. Now, something like this, as detailed as this, is a lot more intriguing than, say, just off the top of my head, for a ridiculous example, East 3rd Street in York, Nebraska. At midnight, people throw rocks at you. That was one of the most haunted things in the state, according to a website, for many years.
Certainly couldn't just be some kids throwing rocks.
Right. Yeah. No, Phil. Absolutely.
Couldn't just be a couple
insulting.
of kids fucking with you.
No, it
No,
couldn't
it's
be
got to
that.
be something paranormal.
Yeah, no, it's obviously demons. Demons.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
Yeah,
clarifying.
don't be a dick.
Thank you for clarifying. Like, I was afraid. No.
So
like
yeah,
this,
but
this
to
is
me,
something-
yeah, this is when we talk about my first
Yeah, I want to know, what's your first instinct when you hear this?
instinct is we're talking about history, and history itself gets embellished.
Okay.
And that's my immediate reaction when we're talking about anything regarding whether it's paranormal, folklore, spooky in any regard. I am immediately very, 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 very skeptical, and especially when it comes not to just history, but when the history delves specifically into folklore. Folklore, highly entertaining, highly interesting, and I like to find out where exactly the folklore started and why it went that way. I think it's highly interesting. Before I was a fan of creepypasta, I liked folklore tales.
Yeah, like, to me, like, again, you know me, in all these things, I'm highly skeptical. Okay.
As
I've
you
always
should be.
been
That's how you should interest these.
like, but like, you've known me throughout my life,
Right.
and my different, arcs that
Yes.
like, I lived a very secular life where I didn't believe in anything that was unseen, and I was
Understood.
very skeptical of this. Now, even like now, like, I attend church, and like, like, I'm with very nice Christian people. They also don't believe in ghosts staying on this plane. Okay, so in any
Yet
iteration
believe in
of
angels.
but they aren't ghosts that interfere in this plane. So we can get into scripture
We're
here a little
splitting
later.
hairs at this point, which is why it bothers me when people are just so determined to say, no, I believe in this, but ghosts? No, it's crazy time. But yeah, no, angels, absolutely. Helps me play baseball.
That's not exactly what
Maybe
some
not,
people would classify
but
their
it's
beliefs.
probably closer
but
than you want to admit in some cases.
in some cases, sure, because there's a lot of people that just go to church and just pray for things. I want
I've
things. I want
literally-
this bad thing to happen, this thing, and this good thing
I
to happen.
literally
to that person.
know
that happens all
people
the
who
time.
have said the words, "I don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe in angels."
Yeah,
At that
okay.
point, you're splitting hairs because you're still talking about an afterlife, but you're arguing the point of heaven versus.
Well, no. What I'm saying is Christian theology teaches that your soul does not linger in this plane past death.
Oh, because the Pope canceled purgatory.
Well, no, that's also a Protestant belief as well.
But we're
so-
still arguing heaven versus purgatory.
Well, no, we're
From a Common Core concept.
arguing passing on versus staying here,
Which is heaven versus purgatory.
Well, no, unless you're saying Earth is purgatory, because if you're
the
saying
soul
a ghost
lingers on Earth, is that not purgatory? Concept alone.
I could see where you're coming at with that, but
Then
like I'm just saying
If
that
that's not purgatory,
I'm just
what is
saying that's
purgatory?
not consistent with Christian theology as I understand it.
If we understand it from the Christian theology, we're talking heaven versus hell. Heaven is paradise.
Yep.
The
Now,
kingdom.
actually, like
Hell is damnation. In between would literally be you are stuck in the soulless realm of where you cannot remain in the physical manner. Purgatory, you are on the physical plane, but not a physical being yourself. That is, as my understanding, purgatory.
okay, now
Before the Catholics
Yeah.
canceled it.
I was about to say I was raised Catholic, where purgatory was a very real thing when I
Yes.
was a kid. Okay, and literally when they said maybe not, I know people that this was devastating because purgatory is as real to me as anything else was the exact quote that they would say. But as purgatory as I understood it was kind of like a blank third realm that was
It's waiting
not
on a park
part of-
bench.
Yeah, like when Beetlejuice was waiting in that
Yes,
that room in the
I understand the Hollywood rendition.
yeah,
of
that's
it, yeah.
that's kind of well, not the Tony. That's literally how tens of thousands of young Catholic children were instructed throughout the 90s. Okay,
My
that's-
understanding of the teachings and writings of purgatory is you are unfortunately sitting in limbo, literally watching
waiting for the end
watching
of
the
times.
living embodiment of life, unable to interact with it as you were before death, before you can either ascend or descend. That is my understanding. That is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the interpretation of many religion.
Well, purgatory is a specifically Catholic invention that basically was it solved a mechanical problem. Because I was thinking about this the other day in the tractor. Strange enough, purgatory specifically.
Okay.
And it solved a very big mechanical issue for Catholics in that what do we do about unbaptized babies and people who were good Christians, but
Because we can't send babies to hell.
But yes, or people who were good Christians, but maybe didn't adhere to every single Catholic doctrine or dogma,
Yeah.
and didn't adhere to all the rituals strictly. What can we mechanically in our minds do about that?
Well, we're not going to torture them,
No,
but
no.
we can't send them to hell.
But all right, we're getting a little off here because what I'm talking about is why I have my skepticisms.
Right.
But going into this or any other hunt, I'm not expecting to find anything for my own very
Well,
defined reasons.
the likelihood of finding a ghost and the likelihood of finding an angel is literally the same percentage. It's almost zero. Because that's not something that you're going to experience. Because I'm sorry, it's just the cold hard truth. The Hollywoodization of the paranormal field, and this started many years ago when the Sci-Fi Channel and the Travel Channel started picking up paranormal investigative shows, and they started dramatizing it.
Oh yeah.
TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, out of
that was an awful show.
Northeastern. Oh, it started out actually fantastic. They did start out great because they had a great crew. They had an honest crew. It was scientifically based, and they're like, no, this is how we go about it. We're going in very skeptical, and then it got very dramatized. And they're like, but they still tried to pretend it was very scientifically based. And instead, and the Hollywoodization came in, took over. Things got bad. People had to leave the show because it got too kooky. And then people Zach Baggins, you fucking pile of shit, piece of fuck you. I will fucking.
All right, so
No, fuck you, Zach Baggins. Fuck you.
fair
Literally.
enough. That's fair. Now,
Ghost Adventures is the biggest crock of shit because that's what happened when Hollywood started dramatizing things. Because when ghost stories stopped being folklore and started being mainstream television, that's when everybody decided, I can do this. I'm not saying, oh, I got in on that before things were mainstream. I'm not going to pretend that. But I did my research. I tried to understand the field. I tried to go, how do people go about doing this before I go out and run around in the graveyard with a flashlight? Because that's embarrassing. But that's what people do because they don't understand the problem here. The problem here is if you want to investigate the paranormal, there's a ton of history into it. You have to get permission first and fucking foremost before you go out and do something stupid, and then go into it with an approach that's not, I'm going to find a ghost. Because if you go into a place that's dark and spooky thinking, I'm going to find a ghost, guess what? You're going to spook yourself into thinking, I just found a ghost.
Yep.
You have to have critical thinking and logical explanations running through your mind. And if you do not, your wildest imaginations are going to take over your understanding. And that's just how it is. 99% of the things that I have seen, which are, I will be honest, several things I have experienced personally have been pretty damn incredible. But they are explainable if you think about it.
We'll get there eventually. What's the one I'm looking for? There we go.
The one.
Hey, you know,
that's the one.
The last one you look for.
Always is.
Because like I've got 3 questions that I eventually want to get to. But I'm kind of interested like at this point of like the skepticism and how people kind of go about it the wrong way.
Right.
And so the way that I'm going to open this is I want to gauge like these 3 different ideas. They're all kind of in the same vein, but I would want to gauge somebody like you, like, A, what would your level of personal interest be in pursuing each of these?
Okay.
And then if, like, say you had somebody that was willing to just be a patron for it and like says, Tony G, I want you to go on this hunt and do everything you can within your power. I will fully fund it. Okay. Like, how would you go about preparing for it?
No, I understand your approach to the question. So,
so
just
we're
hit
gonna
me with it.
The first one will be obviously the local salt witch. Okay. What would your level of interest be there? And then if some patron said, Tony, I'm just paying for it, get it done. How would you go about preparing for
that? So when you specifically talk about something this, I don't want to say hard in the pain or extreme, but you are legitimately strictly talking about something that is strictly folklore. You cannot find it on a map. It is 100%, let's be frank, hearsay. It's not something that is provable by measure. It's not something that's in a history book. It's something that is passed down generation. And to me, frankly, honestly, it's more interesting because it's the interpretation over the decades, over the centuries. And I find that very, very fascinating. And that's a lot of the local legends and the local hunts that I've found to be very interesting. And I've always gone into those if I get a chance to investigate those as this is probably bullshit. But I've read so much about it. I've been interested by this for so many years. I want to see it for myself, even though I know this is not going to be something that's going to change my life. It's not going to expand my mind. When you're talking about folklore specifically is just so, to me, interesting because you have to put your mind in the frame of when this was created. And if you're talking about something that stemmed from like the 1800s, you have to put yourself in that mind frame and think, when this folklore, when this local legend, when this story came about itself, what was the mind frame? What frame of mind was this person in when they started telling the story? How did people think in that day and age when this story started circulating? And to me, that's more interesting than anything because you have to accompany everything around you. You have to think about the times. It's time, it's space, it's everything. That let that local legend, that lore build and build and build. And that to me is more fascinating than even history alone because it's the tall tale getting taller and taller and taller over
to
the
me
years.
That's like, it's like cultural art.
I don't know how else to describe it. Like
that's
the
picture
Salt
perfect.
Witch is a great
Yes.
example of Midwestern native cultural art,
Yes.
for lack of better terms. And so that's what's fascinating about it to me. Now, Tony, we're going to shift gears from our region. So, okay, I'm curious what your level of interest would be in this. And then let's say your patron is like, I don't care. You get all the stuff you have to, and you bag me one of these things. And so, like, this guy's a real TB, a real true believer. Okay, like they true and
TB stands for tuberculosis
oh yeah,
in the
that.
paranormal field. Sorry, it just does.
I thought that was the medical
Nope,
field.
tuberculosis.
Okay. So he's a true believer. Okay, he truly believes this thing is out here, and he's willing to patron you for it and like go the whole 9 yards. And he wants you to investigate the Wendigo.
Okay, so the Wendigo, you're talking specifically not. This is not local folklore. This is not local legend.
This is kind of like the Rust Belt, Great Lakes area.
Okay, so yeah,
for lack of.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, you're talking northern eastern local legend, but this isn't that's not local folklore. You're mostly talking cryptozoology. This isn't oh my gosh, there's a ghost, there's a specter, there's a spirit, there's an angel, there's a demon. This is an unknown.
That's why we're bringing the paranormal investigator in.
This is an unknown entity that is a living, breathing organism. That's the difference between a ghost or a demon or a specter versus a being, a beast, a crazy, unknown, living, breathing animal. Cryptozoology is it's in the same realm, but it's not even remotely distinguishable from something that when we think about it, we're thinking about cryptozoology. Let's compare it to ideally, let's say Bigfoot versus a ghost. Let's say the Loch Ness monster versus a specter. It's not comparable because we're talking about potentially one thing that lived at one point and died, and now it's the soul that lingers on the astral plane, on the purgatory plane, versus something that we've never cataloged on a organism base, because it's highly different. And when we're talking about something like, say, as old as time as the Loch Ness monster versus something as more modern, let's be frank, as the Wendigo, which is a lot more reasonable because we can really imagine that. And that's what it is. When you're talking about something like the Loch Ness monster, that's something that's been passed on from eon and generation, decade to decade, specific to one location. Whereas like the Wendigo is more, you can picture this in your head and be much, much more frightened of it, which actually helps to add to the
legend,
internal legend folklore. It's not local folklore specifically. It's more internal because it's all about the idea and the presence and the possibility of something like this existing. And you can create this in your own mind. And that's what makes it spooky and scary in one's own perception, because when you think about it, you're like, everything this being and this organism does is completely logical. This exists on a plane that we understand. This is completely realistic to think. We don't understand all the beings that exist in the world. Look at the ocean floor. When you investigate the deepest portions of the ocean, you think, we don't understand all the creatures that live on the bottom of the ocean, and we couldn't possibly, because we can't chart those. We can't understand the crazy conceptions that are on the bottom of the ocean. Like when we discover new life on the bottom of the ocean, it's mind-blowing to us, because how does this creature exist? And that's why when you look at something that exists on grass, on soil, on dirt, within our region of the United States, of the continent that we live on, that's what makes it scary. Because when we're talking about the ocean, it's like uncharted waters, depths that we'll never personally experience unless we are oceanographers. But when we're talking about just, my God, if we go out into the woods, we could experience a man-eating being that's never been recorded on film, picture, or any geographical book. That's what makes the concept terrifying to the human mind. Because let's be frank, do you think right now, the people that are listening to me, watching this right now, do you honestly think we have visibly, understandably charted all living organisms that live above the surface. And if you say yes, you're just wrong. That's not a concept that's realistic.
I was about to say there's an account in, I believe, is either the First or Second World War, where there was these folks in the military that were flying very low, and they saw this massive snake in Africa, which is like
Okay.
supposed to be like snakes should not get this big, extinct species, basically.
Sure.
And they like fly low to see, and they multiple like very honorable folks in the military who retired with honors. Multiple eyewitnesses said this giant snake actually snapped at their plane. It was so large. And so we have, like, there's areas of the Congo that have not been explored. There's areas
Right,
of Africa
right,
that
yes.
no human foot has ever stepped foot. There's areas, believe it or not, despite how densely populated it is, China, that there's areas that we haven't actually explored.
None that are charted that we can actually confirm that we've stepped foot on as a species of man.
Yeah, within our
Understanding.
To be frank, let's put it at about 50,000
Right.
years. What I would call, like, I know evolutionarily speaking, it goes back further, but I call modern man about 50,000 years ago to today.
Fair.
And yeah, our modern footsteps have never stepped foot in most of these places. So
Sure.
there's definitely more species that we don't know of and can't account of. So, like,
Yeah.
that's one. So, what would your level of interest be for something like that?
So when we're talking strictly cryptozoology, it's
It's like, is that, I don't know, is that not exactly your specialty, but it's something that if you had to, you could dabble.
So
Is that a fair characterization? Or?
yeah, it's a fair characterization. But like, to be frank, just to give complete clarification, when I was a young child, let's say like 5, 6, 7, 8, that age range, you remember when the local library in town, in our small town, expanded from the small portion that it was into the large building that it is now. Do you remember that expansion process?
Yes.
Okay. So when that happened specifically, I remember very, very, very vividly before that process and expansion happened, there was a section on the left side when you walk straight in. There was the desk where the librarian sat, and on the left, on the very end bookcase, you could find not science fiction, but it was an entire section of crypto, ghosts, aliens, and all the sort. And I would go there. That's where I would go. And there was an entire section of books. They weren't very thick. They weren't.
I remember them well.
They weren't very in depth, but it had visuals and it had the text at the time as to the age range I was. It was very appealing.
I actually took my daughter to that public library, and we looked at those same books a few years ago.
I believe they were orange on the cover, black and white pictures, very simple text, and it gave a very introductory understanding of these things. It always fascinated me. So these concepts always fascinate me. So when we're talking about cryptozoology, yeah, it's in the same realm. But if you're talking about me as somebody who's been investigating the paranormal since 2011, and I've never once gone on a specific crypto case, it's like, example, the only one that you can truly give that would be realistic would be somebody who like hunts Bigfoot. That's what they do. That's the best example of crypto I can give. It's a very, very different thing because you do 100% expect to come back with physical evidence. When you're investigating the paranormal, you do not, and you should not, expect to come back with physical evidence because we're not talking about physical realm. With crypto, yes, you are talking, the goal is specifically physical, visible, organismal proof of an entity that exists on the real plane of something that we have never charted before. So it's highly interesting, highly sought after. And it's very interesting. It's not something I've personally embarked on myself, but yeah, when you're blending those two things like you're talking about here, we're talking about a witch versus crypto, and could it exist on the same plane? Absolutely, because there's no given understanding of that. But when we're talking about a ghost versus like the Loch Ness monster, it's not even remotely the same thing. It's just not.
Okay. Now, that kind of answers what was going to be the third question, but now I've altered it because the third question was, and it sounds
Fair.
like it's going to be more or less the same. What would you do in preparation for an investigation of the Skinwalker
Okay.
in the American Southwest? But like, I'll give an abbreviated answer on that,
Please.
and then we'll. All right. So Tony, the Skinwalker.
So I have my basic concept understanding of the Skinwalker, but let's be frank, this is more of an SCP creepypasta type concept. It's not. This is more modern writing than it is local folklore.
No. The Skinwalker is very old Southwest native. You have to break a very big taboo in order to become like, which is why this is more like witchcraft, voodoo, getting into the realm of like. Now, I don't think those Skinwalkers are real.
I'm going to be frank.
But this is a story.
That's the modern interpretation of it, though, because there is local folklore there.
You have to skin an animal to turn into it.
It is local folklore. There's an aspect of that, but there's a lot of modern interpretation that goes along with it. And the thing I liked about local folklore, that like when the internet, I'll be frank, one of the biggest things that drew me into the internet, I was not, when I was a kid, scary movies scared the hell out of me. I didn't love them. I didn't like them at all. They spooked the fuck out of me. Like Chucky, when I would go into the bathroom, I would kick the goddamn shower curtain open because that thing freaked me the fuck out. I was not a scary movie kid, but for whatever reason, eventually one thing just clicked, and I liked the concept of like Michael Myers and ghosts and aliens. And eventually, when I liked aliens and Bigfoot and Nessie, I didn't like the idea of like Michael Myers and Chucky. And then eventually the things intertwined, and I think it was the interpretation of the internet, because the early stage of the internet, for whatever reason, I stumbled across an early stage website of very, very, very localized folklore. And that's why I bring that word up so often. It was just local folklore of stories from very, very early on, pilgrimage, witch hunt, that era. And I found them so fascinating. Some were extraordinary, ridiculous, and some are just like, that's so detailed, it's believable. And it was this is the early stage of the internet where my 13-year-old mind didn't know how to comprehend the difference anyway, and that always stuck with me. So when we're talking about something as specific as a Skinwalker, there's a ton of modern flair on it, but a ton of local folklore plus lore and legend, neither specific to region, but also kind of specific to region. So please give me your specific
one thing
interpretation.
to kind of spin off of that, like talk about going back to the Wendigo a little bit.
Right.
The horns is a very modern thing that only came in vogue, like literally, I think in the 70s.
Okay.
When like some fictional interpretations showed a Wendigo with horns just because it was more dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally it's somebody that's very gaunt, their eyes are sunken, and it's a metaphor for not turning to cannibalism in very, very bad climates where there's a lot of cold. And to me, it's kind of the psychological tale of, if you do this, if you commit this sin, if you commit this taboo, you will become the Wendigo.
But when you say specifically Wendigo, we're still, this is where the gray area begins, because you are still talking about an organismal being versus something
in this moment, I'm talking about
the Wendigo kind of
a cultural idea, like kind of like almost like an evil Santa Claus.
You've kind of got to explain what the Wendigo, because it's specific.
For those who don't know, the Wendigo is a native spirit in the sort of Great Lakes region, which to me always served as a cautionary tale for people that even if times turn truly bad, do not turn to cannibalism, because it will corrupt your spirit. It will corrupt your soul. It will, in a way, turn you into a Wendigo. And there actually
was it a deterrent for people to just not be the most animalistic,
Yes.
interpretation
Like,
of
yeah, like
themselves.
it was very much a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it was also like, you know, the boogeyman, like, oh, if you children behave, otherwise the Wendigo will eat you. And like,
Okay.
and so that's how I always saw the Wendigo. Now, again, that's my interpretation. Now, the Skinwalker.
Yeah.
The Skinwalker, as I
And the
know
difference between the two.
Okay, the Wendigo, think of it more like a werewolf in that it doesn't have a lot of higher brain functions. It has
Okay.
some levels of intelligence, but not a lot. It's kind of like it's a thing that cannot be reasoned with. Okay, like its hunger is insatiable.
Right.
According to the legends, the Skinwalker, even though it is in these animal forms, maintains its human intelligence the entire time, which makes it a fascinating thing to that's not a bad one. Which makes it a fascinating thing to consider. Now, again, this is all just like you said, folklore, but like from everything I've ever heard, everything I've ever read, and old family tales, which I have some family from the American Southwest. I have some native ancestry from my grandmother's side. She was half Greek, half Hispanic native. It's complicated.
Sure. Yeah.
But
paganistic stuff is it's funny how
good way of putting it.
pagan, not rituals, but retellings of stories carry over to different, not just religions, but folklore, but dressed up as not religion, but kind of religion.
Yeah, that's now like one of the things that it's kind of, it takes on a pseudo religious quality. But one thing I was always told about the Skinwalker is that it's somebody that has committed one of the most heinous taboos against one of their own family,
and
which
the
is
Skinwalker is still something that lives amongst the living. It's not dead. It's not a ghost.
It's allegedly a human that gained a tremendous amount of power through committing the awful taboo of either murdering or graping one of their own family members, and then
now cursed with their existence, a horrible existence with that power.
That kind of depends on which tribal,
okay.
Like some will say like it's just purely like the villain of the story,
right.
And for some, like there's this weird
arc. It's the point of ascension you could not possibly imagine to attain.
I wouldn't quite go that far, but
okay, maybe not as
it's
tremendous.
Always the Skinwalker is always a heel. Okay,
right,
like in all theology is always a heel.
That's what I'm getting at. It's a bad guy.
But like in order to change into whatever animal it wants to, it has to first capture and then skin it ritualistically, which is why no Skinwalkers ever change into like a bear or like something like that, because that's a little difficult to change into.
So, okay, in terms of specifically the
coyotes, on the other hand, most Skinwalkers are known, like the animal that they're most associated with is the coyote.
Okay, so we're still talking about something within the realm of it's highly susceptible to something on the food chain that is well respected in terms. Jesus, the bear, which is very high in the food chain. Let's be frank, the human being, unless it has the proper tools, is going to get absolutely manhandled by the bear
or bear-handled.
So we're still, even in cryptozoology, talking about something that is highly susceptible to even a human being. Let's be frank, because when it comes to cryptozoology and when it comes to the food chain of the understood human ladder, where we rank, a human being versus a bear, for example, stands absolutely no chance whatsoever unless
it's Phil K.O.E.
I was going to switch cameras, but no. No, the understanding is no, the human being in a physical altercation stands no chance versus the bear. But from an IQ standpoint, if the human being has access to the proper tools and environment,
basically, if he's got Batman prep time.
Batman prep time, that's completely different. That's not even close.
But
so
it's
about the IQ.
I understand some of your trepidation. You're like, so Phil, what you're telling me here is the Skinwalker here has less magical power than a brown bear.
That's pretty much what you kind of said, because you just said to get its shit rocked by a bear, but it's better than a human.
Mhm.
So there
See,
you
I
go.
was like, yeah, so like, yeah, that might be nice. Whatever taboo you did, but it gave you less magical power than something about 290 pounds.
So then versus
Like a
say
black bear.
then the Wendigo versus the Skinwalker.
Ooh, that one's tough because, like, okay, now this is purely just fantasy,
Right.
like Royal
Fantasy-
Rumble.
Fantasy booking, we're total skeptics.
Okay, the Skinwalker has the intelligence factor, but Wendigo is just so
Power.
overwhelming. And also, to the native legends, the more they would eat, the larger they would grow, because that way they
Ah.
would never be satisfied. They would never be satiated.
So the mass does take an interpretation here, where eventually it could be much more mass based than a bear.
Oh yeah, much larger.
Okay.
And like, and one of it was. I'll have to send it to you. It's a great creepypasta that talked about, like, it was this Black Ops military force that goes out and hunts Wendigos and
Okay.
stuff, and like, on their comms, like, warning, Algonquin, which was their code word for Wendigo. And they talked about these things that are 14 feet tall and they're just coming at them. And so, fascinating. I'll send the story to you. It was very well written. But like, so that's the idea, is it will get bigger and bigger and bigger because it can never be insatiated. It will always, like, it's always eating, not just because it's hungry, but because it cannot feel warmth.
So it's not a comparable crypto, but it's on the same realm of existence if you want to commit to believing in the crypto, in the creepypasta trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, well, to me, it's like, one's the tale of the American desert,
Right.
one's the tale of the Great Lakes and the northern cold lands.
So region does play into this.
Yes, very much.
I get that, but one is very limited, where the other's power and intimidation factor is a lot more expanded. So again, I'm going to go back to this. Like, it's for me personally, it's very specific. It's very awkward. Like, like when people ask me, like, what brought you to being like, why do you want to like hunt ghosts? What the fuck? Why would you want to do this? Again, it was the basic concept of a handful of books that I found in the library that I found very, very, very fascinating. The concept of what's above, out there in the realm of space that we can't possibly chart or imagine, what exists on an astral plane already on this earth that we can't possibly imagine, and in another dimension. What cryptoids are there out there that we have not charted? Like, those are the things that fascinate me, because we go about our daily business and our daily lives going, there are things that are absolutely absurd, that we think that's ridiculous. Yet at one time, most things were ridiculous until they weren't. And that's kind of always been my driving force. Like, most of the stuff I've seen, that I've experienced, the cases that I've gone on, the ghost hunts that I've experienced, it's mostly explainable. But what the fuck if I happen to be one of those people in those instances that's just super damn lucky to happen to find that one little itty bitty piece of footage that expands the concept of what we understand as the astral plane, the celestial being, the other dimension, the ghost realm, the afterlife, if you will. And I get to not only capture that on evidence, but experience it firsthand. I'd be a fool not to want to try to be there, be the person that catches that. Again, 99% of the time, that's just not going to happen because I'm a realist. But Jesus, what the fuck if?
Now that's fascinating, because I thought your answer for the Wendigo was just going to be like a ditto, or your answer for the Skinwalker was just going to be a ditto for your Wendigo answer. But no, there was a lot more depth to that. So that was fascinating. Now, we're going to shift gears slightly, because I think this is getting back into your expertise here. This is my third question here. This is a little bit closer to our region and something that I've wanted to do for a long time. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado.
Yes.
Okay. Like, now, it's famous
Highly,
place. I mean, The Shining, wasn't that where they filmed The Shining?
So,
am I off on that?
No.
I think that's where it was.
So the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado was the the concept of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, but it was not filmed in Estes Park.
Okay.
The TV movie-ish, which starred not Joe from Wings, but his brother for the TV made for movie version of The Shining was actually filmed on location at
the Stanley.
the Stanley Hotel. But that does not disqualify, because the Stanley Hotel has an absolute ton of history. It does. I don't think the maze scene either was filmed there, but the concept transcends. I've talked to a lot of people that have visited the Stanley. I know many people very, very close to me who have visited there, who've driven by there, who've toured there. It's a place that I've always wanted to go. And again, I bring back up Ghost Hunters on the Sci-Fi Channel, the first iteration of real paranormal investigation that I really got to watch and understand their process. They've done live investigations on TV of the Stanley more than once. And it's, I'm sorry, it's one of those things where I'm like,
be honest.
Everybody kind of just killed it for me. It's architecturally speaking, I would love to go to this building.
I've been there one time years ago. Now, my family for years has gone to Estes Park, Colorado for vacations. Like when I was, I think the first time I went, I was maybe 7. Okay. And the last time I went with our family on a trip, I think was 16. Okay. And so it was a nice long, and it was almost every year. I think
20-ish years ago.
Yeah. But I've gone with my daughter a few times and taken her, and she loved it.
Yeah.
Took her to the same taffy shop, the same, all that stuff. My mother always refused to stay at the Stanley, but she finally, one time she had to go up there because we've actually got some family not too far off and had to do something for them. And we actually went into the Stanley to just go to the bar to get a drink. Because I just want to see this place. I just started walking around.
Oh, yeah. That's
unfortunately, it's if you want to start walking too deep, you got to pay for the tour. Okay, like that was, and my mom didn't want to stick around for the tour.
Understandable. Yeah.
And she hates paranormal stuff, and she didn't want to do it. Like that's that's basically Satan as far as she's concerned.
That's fair. Get it.
And so, but beautiful building. Oh my God, it's like
that's half the fun.
Like it's what you imagine like Gotham City. Like you remember the Val Kilmer Gotham City or the George Clooney Gotham City, and like what you would imagine the insides of the buildings to look like.
Yes,
that's what the Stanley looks like. Okay.
Yes, and that's a big part of it. Like when Chicken and I first founded Grip, it wasn't like, okay, sure, yeah, a big part of it is I want to find me some fucking ghosts. That sounds great. But another portion of it, the first case he and I went on, literally, this is the story. This is how this went down. We talked about this for years. Like, we should do this. We should do this. We should do this. And one day, he sends me a text message. I can't believe we haven't done this yet. And I went, yeah, I can't believe we haven't done this yet either. I get nothing in response for about 10 minutes. And then 11 minutes later, we're doing this. This is the date. This is where we're going. This is it. I went, what? What? Wait, what? And triple what? And in the 10 minutes, we traded like 2 text messages. He had contacted the curator of a historical society in a small-ish town in Nebraska who happened to live in a plantation-style home outside of a small-ish, large-ish town, who'd lived there in their youth, who'd moved away out of state, and who moved back and lived there currently. And they're so pleasant, and it was so perfect. It was just so perfect because it was a person who appreciated history, who wasn't shut down to the idea of the paranormal. And it was perfect. It was just so perfect. It was just the 2 of us, and it was a very intimate meeting. And we got to talk about it. And it was all the concepts that I'd understood about the paranormal up until that point before I actually got to go out and do it myself. And I got to spew that out like I was an expert. And I wasn't. It was my first fucking time ever. And Chicken's like, Jesus, you sat down and started talking like you've been doing this for years. And I'm like, I kind of feel like I have, but I've never done it.
And we sat down, we did this. We did the sit down interview, and then we finally go out, we do the actual investigation. And it literally could not have gone more picture perfect. You know, we got black and white infrared footage and audio recordings of things that you shouldn't get your first time out. And it spoiled us. I'll be frank, it did. It did.
Now,
And I'm not talking about stuff that like, oh, we were just above we were punching above our weight class, but like things like, no, we kind of had an idea of like, no, this is bullshit. Don't fall for this trap. We had a pretty good understanding. But at the same time, like, we definitely found some things that were not things you should find on your first outing. And that ruined me for a long time. So I again, I've seen, I've heard, I've felt, I've understood a lot of things that were things that other people will probably never understand or be able to experience themselves. But at the same time, if you're experiencing things greater than what I might be explaining, you might not have looked hard enough for the actual explanation. Because again, I'm still a realist at heart.
now, okay. Full disclosure, I've gone with you on a ghost hunt
Yes.
before. And before that, I showed my mom some of your footage before I went. And you know, my mom, she's always got a pretty good sense of humor, but she's also like pretty sharp with her. Like
Sure.
I was showing her one of your intros, and it shows basically like a cabinet door swinging open.
That one's
anybody
100%
touching.
legitimate.
Oh, I know, but like my mom, she sees that and goes, "Oh yeah, that's it. I'm convinced. It's the ghost."
I know.
Like it's like don't get me wrong. Like you're working. Like I feel like what you're doing here.
No, I
it's kind of
totally
like
understand.
kicking water uphill
I
because
understand.
it's so hard. But
That's one of those pieces of footage where when it happened, that was we returned to the same location I just described. It was our second outing. It's a room. It's kind of a discarded room. It's a storage room that's in the upper stairs of this house. She hadn't gone in weeks, and this cabinet door is cracked. Let's say this much. She hadn't gone up there in weeks, and this cabinet door had been cracked like that literally for weeks. She hadn't gone in this room. Chicken and I are sitting downstairs where our base camp, our table, and all of our equipment are set up. And you can check this in time with the audio recording and the video footage that we had. We asked specifically, please open a door. And in real time, with the timestamp of the CCTV footage, within like less than a minute, that cabinet door that you just described on its own opens. It's not.
I know.
I know it sounds completely ludicrous, and even myself, like I'm looking at it to this day, and I'm like, obviously we caused a wind gust to fuck with this and make it open. We had to have done this, but again, it sat like that for weeks, and we tried to instigate a response. And that specifically for me, when we're talking about the paranormal, if you can get something to respond to you, if you can instigate something to give you back to what you want, if you ask specifically for something, knocks, taps, interaction, that's when it goes from being I'm reaching, and that's when it starts delving into actual, I don't like using the word evidence, but it's a lot closer to evidence than people going, my God, I feel like I'm being possessed.
Yeah, that like that is kind of one of the big problems is like I've been on a hunt with you before because like it was during COVID and everybody dropped out. And
Yep.
What's going on there? Okay, all right.
But
yeah, I went with you on a hunt during COVID. Everybody dropped out. It was one of those.
Yeah, we had a couple of people drop out, and I'm like, Phil, I'd love you to go with us one time.
And I was like, I kind of felt like I was just being a good friend. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Like, oh boy,
I just want you to experience.
Everybody dropped out on the ghost hunt. Now, what I'm gonna say is, I understand why it happens because, because. Well done. I figured you were going to lose a tooth over that one.
Fake anyway.
The temptation to play along on a ghost hunt is
easy.
Obscenely high because, like, all right, Tony.
Yes.
I don't know. Like my grandmother years ago took me to the play of Peter Pan.
Right.
Tony
Don't know why that's still froze.
Yeah,
But
let's
all
just
right.
keep here. But like,
Okay.
my grandmother took me to the play of Peter Pan, and if you ever go to the physical play, which you need to sometime, there's this one beautiful moment where Tinkerbell through the whole play is just portrayed as this little light, just this little bright shining light on
Yeah.
the
Just
stage.
a floating orb. Yeah.
And then there's this moment where the light starts to get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And then I think it's Peter Pan, or maybe the narrator, comes out
Yeah.
and says, "We need you, the audience, and
Yes.
especially the children, to say, 'I believe in fairies.'" And that's the only
Yeah.
thing that can say. And you, the audience, you say, "I believe in fairies. I believe in fairies." And the light gets bright. And there is such a gravitational pull to want to believe in these things, which is why it's so like. Even
That's why it works. Yeah.
like I found myself like not being mean to the one girl who was thinking a demon was in the world. Like it's like I like in my mind I'm thinking.
You're getting caught up in the moment.
But like I felt not like I'm not gonna be mean to her, but dude,
yeah, you're unfortunately that's 100% accurate because the people that want to go out and do this want to experience something so badly that they're going to be easily convinced, and that's again why I stress this. Understand what you're getting yourself into. Understand what you have to bring along with you, and understand the mind frame that you have to have when you go to do this. Because I've never, ever, ever, ever once in the 50 cases I've done over the multiple locations that I've experienced, gone in going, I'm going to find me a fucking ghost tonight, because you just can't do that. And if you do that, guess what? You're going to find a ghost.
No,
because it's conjured up in your own mind.
I'm not going to name any names, but there's at least a couple people that I've encountered on ghost hunts with you that go into every ghost hunt convinced they're going to meet a ghost.
And you're not going to be able to change
themselves
people's
that
mind.
they have.
Right.
Like,
and you're not going to be able to change people's mind on this, because that, unfortunately, is just how the human mind operates. Like, and unfortunately, when you're talking about things like ghosts, the concept is the afterlife. Is it specifically religious? No, but it's going to play into that. It's just going to. So, again, it's just, I've never, and people scoff at me. People have been in the field longer than I have, or attempted to be. I say, I try not to take a religious understanding into my investigation. And they go, why not? I'm like, because you're just doing yourself a disservice at this point. Because if you take that concept in, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you already have a preconceived notion. And if you take a preconceived notion into this, you're going to have a bias, whether you think so or not, whether you understand it or not, whether you realize it or not. And the best experiences I have had personally doing paranormal investigation have not been going to famous haunted locations like the Villisca Axe Murder House or the Waverly Hills Tuberculosis Sanatorium in Kentucky. It's been doing private residences in small town rural Nebraska or wherever with people who are actually literally scared to exist in their home, who've contacted me specifically and said, I heard that you can help me. And I'm like, I'll do my best. And we've gone into their home as guests, invited, because they're scared, and gone, I don't know what's going on in my home. And here's what happened. We were able to put the pieces of the puzzle together and figure out, logically speaking, completely explainable, why they were feeling uneasy, why they felt scared in their home, and told them, look, the ground wiring in your furnace room was bad and it made you paranoid because high frequencies of this, or your AC was running at such a reverberation that, believe it or not, if it runs at a specific frequency, can make you hallucinate. These are real phenomenon that happen and are physically explainable. And when you can actually do that and tell somebody, no, you're not actually crazy, and it may not be the answer that you wanted, but you're going to be able to sleep in your house tonight without having to be completely freaked out. That's more rewarding to me than finding somebody running around on a sheet in the fucking halls of a jail.
Tony, I'm going to leave it with this one last question here, because this is a central question. Because you seem to be trying to apply, when you say I'm not getting into a religious interpretation, so you seem to be trying to apply the scientific method to of thesis,
Yeah.
hypothesis, and repeatable testing
Yeah.
to the paranormal.
Yes.
With all of your investigations and with all of that being in consideration, would it not be reasonable to come to the conclusion that this is not true?
That what's not true?
The paranormal. of
Oh
any
no,
kind.
a million percent. Yes, absolutely. Because the idea and the concept of the paranormal at its core, you cannot sit here and tell me that it's not based off of local folklore, witchcraft, ghost stories, and the like. It's just going to stem from that, because the greatest story ever told is one that the human mind cannot conceptually understand. That's why stories snowball. That's why local folklore takes on lives of their own. That's why they grow. That's why they get bigger. That's why they survive decades and decades and decades, because they're so tremendous and intriguing. From a scientific approach, like again, like I liked the Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster books, going to the library. And as the decades and years fell off the calendar, the idea of a dinosaur in the Scotland Loch came more and more and more ridiculous, because no, this logistically speaking is ridiculous. But the concept of like aliens and not technically ghosts, but something on a different plane, that you can't necessarily disprove, just like you can't disprove something on the religious scale. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? The same concept applies. So, of course, it could be absolutely this doesn't exist. And more times than not, I'm going in going, this probably doesn't exist. The claims that you're making, I'm not telling you it's bullshit, but I'm going to believe what you're saying, and I'm going to try to find the answer as to why, and I'm going to try to find the answer of how before you've concluded the why.
Interesting. Well, T, that is a very fascinating little glimpse into the world of grip. That from the past and some of your perspectives, I'm curious. Other than obviously the Salt Witch investigation, other
Indeed.
than obviously going to the Stanley, is there anything that's kind of piquing your interest that you'd like to get into? Now, I know it's like, especially in this economy and in everything in the world, it's really hard to get all like with grip. I've noticed a lot of clocks need to strike the same hour at the same time.
True. Yeah.
And
Well, that's just any day or age, of life.
Yeah. So I'm curious, is there anything that like you definitely want to like, I want to investigate this before I'm too old that my knees
Right.
won't let me do it when I'm in my 60s or 70s?
So some of the big ones that I've wanted to do, I've done the Villisca Axe Murder House 3 times now, which is just I'll be frank, it's location close by in Nebraska. I'm lucky enough to be able to have done that so many times. It's an incredible place. It's very nerve ending the first time, but once you're used to it, you kind of get it. And the history is so spine chillingly terrorizing. That's a great location, even though it's not. I'll save my personal biases, whatever, but great location. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky was on my bucket list to visit, regardless of what I did. I wanted to see it. I got to experience it. I got to experience the building itself and the architecture, and it's so large, and the history is so big, and the deaths over the course of tuberculosis in the thousands. It's incredible. It's ridiculous. It's terrifying. That was one of those places I always wanted to see, and I got to do that. And it didn't intimidate me because I'd done this for so long. I thought it would, and it just didn't. I was just, get me the fuck in this building so I can experience this. There's other places like the Winchester Mystery House, I believe in some region of California.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about
the story is the widow that built this house started she lost her mind and she started building staircases nowhere. There was always a construction crew on site to build and build and build onto the house, because she's got, as the ghosts would follow her around room to room, if they just kept building onto the house, it would confuse the ghosts. It's apparently a very interesting location. The Lizzie Borden house in the Northeast is supposed to be very interesting. Love to see that. A lot of great places in the Southwest, as well as the Southeast, Louisiana, especially. A lot
Louisiana.
of voodoo. Yes. There's a lot of great places. There's, internationally speaking, a lot of great places as well. But you have to go into these places with a certain level of confidence. And eventually you get that. Because whether you believe in it or not, you think it's all bullshit. Once you're actually looking at it, you're there. And it's big. And it's right in front of you. And you're like, oh yeah, everything I've read about this, everything I've been told about this, everything I've watched about this, I think it's all bullshit. But now it's right in front of me. Even if I think it's only like a 0.005 chance that there might be something there. What if that's that? And now I'm about to walk into this shit. It's still pretty fucking intimidating, whether you want to admit it or not. So you just got to remember to keep your fucking head about you, not let yourself delve into the mind of madness, which a lot of people unfortunately do. And once you let yourself disbelieve the reality that's surrounding you, once you let your mind dictate what you're seeing, what you're understanding, hearing, feeling, etc., once the senses leave your body and you just go with the flow, you've got to remember to keep reason within your mind. Because if you don't, you're screwed. And that's really it.
Well, Tony, on behalf of Big Bucket Empire on YouTube and Facebook, K.O.E Nation on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter,
Yes.
and Hazard Analysis on YouTube.
Indeed.
Thank you for sharing some of your experiences with Grip and Grip Paranormal. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people?
Really, it's just, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen, I've felt, I've heard a lot of great things. And I've been on location with the people who have allegedly seen, felt, heard, etc. A lot of great things. The number one question I'm asked is, oh, do you believe in ghosts, or what's the best thing you've ever seen? And I never know how to answer that, because I don't know how to give an answer that's going to actually give them the answer that they want. Because I could sit here and bullshit all day and say, oh yeah, I saw a shadow person walk into a wall, or I had a ghost tug on the back of my fucking underwear, which those are things that have happened. How do you explain that though? How do you explain that and actually make it make sense? Without going, no, yeah, that's totally exactly what happened, without the actual possibility.
When it's not measurable.
Right, exactly.
It's always hard.
Measurable. You've got to understand the situation. And for me, it's overcoming. You've got to replace fear with curiosity. And that's always kind of been the mantra. Don't get freaked out, even if you're curious, because once the curiosity delves into fear, you're fucked. You've only got so many days on this realm. And if you want to spend a few of them trying to have a bigger, larger understanding of some of the other aspects of it, more power to you. And I encourage it. But just remember, your mind is your most powerful tool. Don't let it fool you, but don't let it betray you either.
Well, folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us for this very special interview discussion with Tony G of Grip Paranormal and the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, and Tony the Rod 2.0, or actually, no, just Tony the Rod.
Tony the Rod.
On TikTok, folks. I just got so used to that 2.0
Me too.
by now.
Me too.
But, folks, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. I hope all of you make it back here to the Big Bucket Empire happy, healthy, much the wiser. God bless. Travel well.
Yes, yes, travel well indeed. And folks, I decided because I got a big day tomorrow and a lot of things I got to get done, we're going to get to that special time, but it's not going to be quite the end of tonight's entertainment because we're going to end with a very special and dramatic reading of The Stars Do Not Wait for You by one Phil K.O.E. But folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us here at the K.O.E Nation Big Buck and Empire Hazard Analysis. Wherever you are catching me tonight, I hope this video and I hope these words find you happy, healthy, much the wiser. Raise a glass to yourselves. God bless every last one of you. I hope all of you make it back here happy, healthy, much the wiser. God bless you all. Travel well. Enjoy, folks. It's quiet out here. The desert sprawls from horizon to horizon, where purest white meets twilight red. There are no edges here, no angles, just curves and the gentle rise and fall of dunes as far as the eye can see, and everywhere beyond that. Had a visitor from some other world laid eyes on this place, they might have found it serene, even beautiful, pure. I can enjoy no such delusions, regretfully, for I know what lies beneath, and among the sands of the endless desert, a charnel house spanning an entire planet, 7 billion human souls ground thin and fine until no trace of their existence could ever be found. I know this because I put them all there. Oh, brother, it all happens so fast once we're gone. It began the day you that I have never known, found my power. The power that I hid from myself in some previous life for reasons I can now easily guess. I was looking out of the window of my apartment so I could see the stars. And instead, I saw you, blazing as you tore yourself asunder to keep the power away from yourself. You didn't trust what you would do with it, and so you chose to throw it away. You knew yourself all too well, as I suspect I did too at one point. By all accounts, I should not have been able to see you, for my apartment was truly a tiny containment cell about a half a mile underground. But such considerations never meant much to one living entirely in his own world. When I saw the moment of your demise, I became aware of myself for the first time in I have no idea how long. Whichever part of me that led me to throw away my power did the same to my will, trapping it in an eternal status quo from which there could be no release. An eternity of filing spreadsheets for employers who existed solely in my head, of 9 o'clock meetings with no one, of fake, masturbatory crushes over imaginary women. An eternity of tired, grinding mediocrity. But that was over that night. With your soul burning in the atmosphere like the loneliest of stars, I awakened. I died. For whatever left that little cell turned apartment wasn't me anymore. I was never more than an earthworm, distinct from all the rest only in that I had a little more control over the soil in which I crawled. They never thought me more than a minor reality bender, a bundle of introverted powers and neurosis that was very unlikely to ever pose any serious threat. And they were right. The person I was, SCP-1915 as they called me, never was anything other than that. But 1915 died that day, watching a fallen star. The thing that then swatted the guards posted at its cell like they were less than gnats, that raised Site 17 into its fine white sand that is now so warm beneath the feet, that was something else. Not an eternity, for that would imply a personality. And this thing surely has none. Not a purpose, for there was no purpose behind its action then, nor will there be for any of its actions to come. Nor was it a will, for it wants nothing. Not vengeance, not dominion, not freedom, not even simple power. No, if I had to describe that thing as anything at all, it would be an absence, a void where the entity should be, a lack of purpose, an imbecile force devoid of all will, an absence. The sand is still warm to the feet. That means the sun still burns high above. I wonder why it lets it remain when all else was so quickly erased, when it could so easily just reach and pluck it out of the sky. Had it been another, I'd suspect it was to mock humanity's memory, to mock that sliver of me that still persists in the flesh, stubborn like a buried tick. But this is the absence. It does not mock. After Site 17's destruction, retaliation soon followed. Standard containment terms at first, though certainly still enough to meet any anomaly the Foundation imagined could be contained in Site 17 with overwhelming force. When those men failed to return, failed to even report their arrival, more serious measures had to be taken. Site 17 has always been isolated, and so they could act freely. Gunships and fire teams, aerial bombardment and artillery barrages. The Foundation came down on what it still believed to be SCP-1915 like a fire god's fist, all heat and sound and bluster. Had it still been truly corporeal, I doubt even ashes would have remained. But whatever the absence truly was at this point, the tattered semblance of my flesh hanging around it had very little to do with it. It simply stood there and took it all in. And the Foundation's initial fury was soon spent. It then began to walk. And not too quickly either. For days, it simply leisurely strode on while the Foundation threw everything it had at it. I watched from within my deadbolt as it walked unfeeling, uncaring, and this desert followed in its wake, as inscrutable and unstoppable as its harbinger. We are not quite alone here. Some stubborn immortals persist, wretched creatures. A continent away, an ancient man still walks, tormented by 3 mocking voices. He believed that once he was the only one left, he would be allowed to rest. He was wrong. Beneath the ground is a soul, suffocating as the earth slowly grinds its sanity to mulch. From its prison of gold and rubies, there would be no release. Elsewhere lies a once smiling god as the sands cover his prone figure. He does not resist. He had once promised the world his love, promised humanity the stars. Sand pours through his fingers as he tries to gather his flame together. His people. But it is dying, and they are dead. Extinguished. When someone walks, they are bound to reach somewhere eventually, despite everyone's best efforts. And so the absence arrived at its first city, the sand at its heels like an obedient lapdog. Oh, there had been villages and towns before that, but the absence didn't seem to care enough to bother with them. It simply walked by, leaving them to the whims of the sands, which were only ever singular in their intent. But through the streets of the city, it strode, as mobile task forces fought and fell to buy the civilian population just a few more minutes to evacuate. By this point, hiding what was truly going on became impossible, of course, as street after street sank beneath that gentle crawling tide. The Foundation had, of course, attempted to evacuate the city once it realized there would be no stopping the absence. But if I've ever learned anything in my eons as a corporate peon, is that organizing an operation of that magnitude is something that takes a lot more time than the Foundation had. It's a wonder they managed to save as many as they did. As for the rest, it had waited until night fell. I imagine it was an eerie sight. That lone figure standing beneath the frozen light of other worlds in that empty intersection between financial and residential districts. Where train tracks used to be before the old steam locomotives went out of service and were never replaced by newer ones. Yes, it waited until it could see the stars. Then it burned, without heat, without light, without life. It burned a hole through the city, and there was nothing to fill it. Reality cannot suffer a vacuum, they always said, but the absence had shown how little it cared for reality. So it was gone, just like that. How does one explain something like that? How do you describe what isn't there? Where one moment was a city of 500,000, the next it wasn't. To a place it was, even the sands wouldn't come. It was just a scar. It was nothing. It was then, I believe, that the Foundation realized it could not stand alone. The next few months of the Absence's march saw them turn to their sometimes allies, coalition mage killers and thermonuclear strikes, initiative paladins and holy relics, sniper rifle or sacred sword, burning inferno or divine retribution. The Absence did not care. And soon, the Foundation had no allies left to turn. It then called on its vicious enemies. Ink Eaters wove their art in maddening patterns to break the minds of the infinite. Archivists and librarians poured from the ways, bringing with them the knowledge of 100,000 worlds. Clockwork titans shook the barren whiteness of the sand with the thunder of metal. The Absence did not care. And soon, the Foundation ran out of enemies. In a last act of desperation, they committed their final, most painful betrayal. The Wardens unleashed upon the world their prisoners. Of these, I have made note, though I doubt the Absence did the same. On the blasted wasteland that was once Boston, it was assailed by two brothers, one savage, the other somber, one violent, the other reluctant. They nevertheless fought with a graceful unity to take the breath away. In their eyes, I saw that they did not know each other for a very long while, and that they fought so that they could have the time to rectify this. I saw regret and hope, rage and desperation. But most of all, I saw a simple need to be. I would like to believe that you and I would have been like them had we met, brother. They fought with the fury of 1,000 years of solitude. It did not suffice. In a wounded valley that had once been part of the Black Sea, we came across a self-proclaimed god. There was nothing but confidence in his eyes as he threw reality itself into disarray, bent and twisted its most fundamental laws to bring upon the Absence untold destruction. The earth froze and boiled and heaved. The air screamed with a blighted glee, and the god he strode draped in a cloak of lightning, as if time itself had clawed at the Absence with talons of utter unbeing, until the god came to meet the Absence's lack of gaze, until his eyes rested on a nothing that lasted forever, until he did not suffice. Before the walls of Acre, as the ancient city was drowned by the desert, two figures approached us. One was four-legged and horned. Its crown was ice, its eyes galaxies. Its whole was power absolute. The second was a man, simple, humble, but possessing a love of being that extended to the edges of the universe. Compassion to pierce the deepest hells that had nothing to do with weakness. Of the two, I could not tell you which was more glorious, which was more terrifying. They met the absence with will alone, and when I felt it fall on us, I thought I would weep. Surely nothing could withstand such a presence. Surely nothing would want to. But the absence was less than nothing, infinitely less. I have told you what became of kind Pangloss. Of the other, even less remained. For months they came, for years, for decades, alone or in groups, with ferocity or with a blank stare. The Foundation's prisoners threw themselves at the absence. I could not hope to imagine the reasons behind the actions of every individual anomaly. But if I could guess, I would say that the idea of sharing existence with a thing like the absence galled them to the point of madness. I don't blame them. But by the end, prisons ran empty as the world dried up, as life was drained from it inch by inch, grain by grain, till only one city remained. I don't know by which power I was allowed to send my senses ahead of us. As the absence marched towards that tottering bastion which held in its quivering embrace the very last of humanity. As the sands around us buried the last of the trees that will ever grow in this land. I felt each tiny mote of life in that sad place like the flames of a cheap candle, moments before the typhoon. In these moments, as twilight danced in lurid reds and oranges on ivory, I sensed them all. For you, brother, I witnessed. In a low, narrow room, a woman sat hunched at the foot of her ever narrower bunk and couldn't bring herself to pray. She had lost her mother when she was but a babe, and though she was no longer young, her features still displayed all the violence of that incident. Her mother stood before the eater of children and did not budge. And when they both fell down, she sang still the praise of her Lord. She lost her father in the first days of the war against the absence as the paladins marched with holy fervor in their eyes. Her father had been a believer, had always been a solid presence in her life, an anchor immovable by anything but regret. He had promised her he would be back. He did not mean to lie, but his God had forsaken him when it counted most, forsaken all of them. And now Naomi knelt at the foot of the ever narrowing bunk and could not pray. So she cursed instead. Below, in a series of dank cellars which might have at one point stored cheeses, a woman of about 40 tinkered with broken toys. When she was young, she made wonders, such wonders. In every line etched across her prematurely old face, I saw what could have been had it not been for the absence. For me. In the dim light and the soft noise of rotting wood crumbling beneath calloused fingers, I saw the death of potential, the death of all possibility. Though Isabel was stubborn as she always was, she knew that this toy would be her last. Just as well, she thought. After today, there'd be none left to play with it. On the rooftop of the highest building still standing, an elderly man watched the world come to an end. He was once an agent of the Foundation, once one among 100,000, ready, prepared, and collected. His duty was to instruct new agents what was proper for an agent to do, how it was proper for that agent to think. And he had been very good at his job, since generally his recruits survived long enough to thank him. But what was he now, he wondered, as he watched the sands pour over the paltry last line of defense that a few defiant fools erected the day before. His lads and lasses were all long since dead, and all that he knew, all of his years of training and experience, in the end, they amounted to less than nothing. No longer an agent, for there was no longer an agency. No longer a teacher, for the students were gone. No longer a man, since, well, it would not do to repeat that now, would it? No longer anything. And that was the cruelest joke. It no longer mattered if the absence arrived, he thought. They were already within it. A noise behind him. The old man turned to see a small, mousy man in a wrinkled gray suit and a deflated hat that at one point was likely a fedora. He looked at the old man, but said nothing. Lombardi looked back and didn't know if to laugh or cry. Soon it ceased to matter. Such was the end. Quiet, small, bereft of heroics and great deeds, free of pretensions of great meaning. One night, there was a human race on the planet Earth. The next, there wasn't. And that was that. The stars do not wait for you, brother. When you took my power, when you burned yourself in the skies above, they looked upon you and felt nothing. The stars did not wait for humanity. For all of the promise it showed, for all of the promise others saw in it. But what of the absence? What of me? I am, by all accounts and possible qualifications, the greatest monster this world has ever saw. Perhaps that any world saw. And yet, brother, I see now that the stars wait for us. For me. Where is the justice in that? Seek it not, for there is none. But the fact remains, brother. The stars do not wait for you, but they wait for me to take them into my embrace. I suspect I shall not be long.